Good evening, and welcome to the November 20th meeting of the Los Teche Groves Town Council. If we can have the roll call, please.
Mayor Browning.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rocket.
Here.
Councilman Wilson A.
Here.
Councilman Zero.
Here.
Councilman Liang.
Okay, if you would stand for the pledge, remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, again, we ask for wisdom and guidance. As we come into this Thanksgiving season, we are thankful for so much to be in a free country and living like we do. Lord, we pray for those that are overseas fighting for our nation, serving, protect them. We pray in your name, amen. All right, I'll ask for any changes to the agenda before we have an approval, and I know of one, just for practicality. Item 6A will become 5C, because that will also be a public hearing. So we'll move it up to 5C, and then 6B will become 6A. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add or change?
Mark, your management updates, please, that will be including the petition and stuff. Okay, we're going to move that to the front.
All right. So we're going to move, what, 8A? All right, you want to put it 4B? I mean, or
Yeah.
in between committee and, okay.
Well, yeah, why don't you make it 3B? It's not, it is a presentation.
Okay, 3B, all right. That works better than the committee report. So we come 3B. All right. With these changes, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Okay, Ryan makes a motion. Is there a second? Okay, second by Tom. Further discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Prior to reading the consent agenda, I've got something to read here for the record. This is regarding the minutes. There's an amendment to the minutes of the joint meeting of the Town Council and the Los Teche Groves Water Control Board held on October 16th. Refer to page 26 of 210 of the agenda pack. Vice Mayor Rocket recalled that a portion of the discussion had included language relating to the town having control of the design of speed humps on the roadways controlled by the town. After conducting a review of the meeting video, it was determined that language would be added to the minutes as follows. Mayor Browning commented it was the intent of both boards to give town control of the roads to be included, and that there was agreement that the town could design the speed humps. Town Attorney Cirillo replied that within the design criteria, the town could set the standards. There was also a redundancy in a sentence that will be corrected, also under item 2, page 26 of 10 of the agenda packet. Minutes should be amended to read, Vice Mayor Rocket noted that it would include North F Road, South F Road, and North Road. Also collecting canal road would be included. So those are just in for this consent agenda changes. With this being changed, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Jim makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes. Moving to item 3, presentation. We have some visitors back there. Very nice. We have Girl Scout troop making a presentation. Tracy, you going to do that for us?
Yes, I'm just going to.
Come on up.
They're all a little shy, so.
Come on, don't be shy, girl.
name is Tracy Shale. I'm the leader of Girl Scout Troop 20673, which includes some of my girls, Victoria, Sabra, Emily, and Andrea. And they are working on a service project. And what we would like to ask the town is if we can put a bin in their town. And what we're looking for, our service project will include, how should we put this? I work at Los Angeles Girls Elementary School as well. I'm sure a lot of you do know that. And our school is a Title I school, which means more than 52% of our children are on free and reduced lunch. Well, this year we're at almost 60% children on free and reduced lunch, which means a lot of our children are going home hungry. It's hard to say this time of year, but this is what's happening even in our own town. And the girls thought that they would like to try to raise food. Toiletries, food, non-perishables are the best. Simple things, sneakers from Kmart, nothing that they could, somebody's going to want to steal from them. They're going home hungry, they're going home without clothing, they're cold. So they are in need of quite a few things. Our guidance counselor, Step 7, is working with us to deliver all these items with us. We were able to feed 12 families today for Thanksgiving. That was just within our school. So we'd like to ask the town and the town office if we could put a bin, and have a collection bin in their office, and we'll come once or twice a week to bring anything back to our guidance counselor, who is the only one who knows who these families are. They are people kept anonymous, just for their, own peace of mind. That's something we'd like to ask the town if we can do.
That's great. Consensus-wise, how are we, council? Everybody all right with that? Sounds like a great project.
If people don't want to do food or anything, they can make a check to Los Angeles Girls. We're not allowed to collect money, but they can bring it to the school itself,
Okay.
and this kind of set will accept it.
Okay. Mark, you all right with that? I'm sure you will be.
Mr. Mayor, I had a question. What kind of goals do they have, a value or monetary goals to achieve?
There is no achievement. It's whatever we can collect. And this is a year-long project. It's not something that stops after the holidays. It's all year. Because obviously these children go hungry all year. So if you watch the children eat, and some of the food is pretty disgusting at school, you'll know they're hungry because they're eating the fish sticks that would turn my stomach, So you know that they're hungry, and they'll eat whatever you give them.
Where's lunch you? I think this needs an internal.
If you want to, you said if you wanted to make check payable to Los Angeles.
Yeah, Black Fish Girls Caravan, Kathy Capacetta, she would accept the checks and buy what's needed for the kids. And she's the only one that knows who these children are, along with our principal as well. But she's the only one that knows. The girls are just collecting for them, and we give to her. And we've got a bunch of volunteers at school that are also helping us divide it out into boxes for her. She spent today delivering 12 families today at least. So we were able to collect for 12 families at least today. And they need even simple things, shoes, sneakers, socks.
Good deal. All right, Ms. Tracy, ladies, thank you very much for coming.
You want to leave these in the back?
What's that?
Or the flyers gonna leave
Yeah,
in the back?
that's great.
And
Put
then
those
on
in
the
the
back,
back.
we'll end up putting town Black Fish Girls and other collections.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, would it be appropriate to ask the council if they want to make a cash contribution to this particular need?
For what you can do is make a motion.
I make a motion with a cash contribution of $5 million.
Okay. Is there a second? Second. Okay, we have a second by Ryan. Discussion?
Great idea.
Okay. Motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. All right, moving to 3B. This is going to be your.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me get this started off for the town attorney and myself. On November 7th, 2012, the town clerk received an affidavit for commencement of proceedings for petition for initiative by a committee, and all the appropriate paperwork that they filed is in your packet. Tonight, agenda under 8A and the report. So the town clerk, we move forward, we contacted the town attorney to make sure that we were proceeding properly. The town clerk went ahead and did all her requirements under the charter. I would report that since that time, as of yesterday, town staff received a visit from Amanda J. Gurry, who is listed as the second person on the committee list. And she sent did an affidavit that was notarized to the members of the town council of the town of Loxahatchee Groves, indicating I am hereby requesting that my name be removed from the affidavit for commencement of proceedings petition for initiative to repeal the town of Loxahatchee Groves ordinance number 2012-05 and number 2012-04. I do not support repealing the ordinances 2012-04 and 2012-05, and I do not wish to be a member of the committees circulating and filing these petitions. Thank you for your consideration in the year. So with that, let me turn it over to Mike, and he can give you some of the legalese on this, and then we'll be happy to jump in and continue to address that line and whatever issue we have.
The town's charter does provide for an initiative proceeding to request that the town council either adopt an ordinance which is prepared by the initiative committee, or to rescind an ordinance that the council has previously adopted. In this particular case, the committee had requested the rescission of 2 ordinances which approved comp plan amendments to the town's comprehensive plan. There is a statute that prohibits referendum for the approval of comp plan amendments. Because of that statute, it does give me pause to believe that this is a referendum that is appropriate, notwithstanding the city's charter. I do know that there was a recent decision relating to the city of Boca Raton, but there are some legal and factual distinctions which I prefer not to get into at this point, because I think it's premature to be talking about litigation or trying to determine whether this is a valid question, because ultimately that would have to be done by a judge if this committee were to be able to reconstitute itself and to get the necessary signatures. Under the process, they're to have 10 committee members. If there's a resignation, they don't have a committee. They need to get that, if they want to pursue this, they have to get the committee back to full strength. Once they do that, they can pursue the signatures, and they have 60 days to do that. That's the process in a nutshell. Be happy to answer any questions you may have about the process. But that's really, we're at the very beginning parts of that issue. And you're going to take on any issues you may have.
Okay. Comments by council members?
A couple things, in the way of preparation, Mike, at our next meeting, town council meeting, would you prepare at the consent of the council, a resolution for the council that would restate our position, basically says we reject the initiative and the grounds under which it's being brought. Have it for us at the next meeting, if you would.
Okay.
And any other, be prepared as far as discussion as to specifics and other related items in terms of statutes and whatnot, as we might have concerns for. So you kind of have fully prepared, if you would, the next time process for council would agree with that request.
Okay, Ryan, comments?
I'll hold off for now.
Okay, Ron?
I agree with Councilman Rock 100%. Personally, I would not support going forward with this. We have, as a council, and we were elected by the people of Loxahatchee. These people with this petition, they had ample time to draw this petition up while we had our workshops, while we had all our meetings, before we as elected officials decided that we want the college here along with the people of Loxahatchee. And we felt like it was very beneficial to our taxpayers. So I will not support this petition, and anything we can do to change it where we do not have to, I'm in support of that. And I am glad that this young lady did come off the committee. Apparently, I've heard rumors out there, apparently she found out that there was a little bit more to it than just rescinding 2 ordinances. The one thing that bothers me about people coming up with petitions like this is they do not make the people that they ask to sign these petitions aware of everything that's involved. They didn't let this young lady know that possibilities, if they won this referendum and vote, if they won it, that we would have to actually buy, in a court of law, we would probably have to buy the property from the college. That's only $4.5 million. That's excluding legal fees and whatever else they want to add on to the bill. The other thing is the developers that are going to have the rest of the 21 acres, I'm sure their commercial buildings and stuff was probably depending on the college being there, because I have a hard time believing that any business would go under if they had a state college in the same area. So it just bothers me that they try to make it simple to the people signing the petition. It's just an ordinance. Everybody has a right to vote. Well, no, people had a right, and they had ample time to come before this council and protest the college. And we had a handful of people, but the majority of Loxahatchee that I've talked to, especially the ones with kids, especially the teachers and the professors and people looking for work, they support this college 100%. And this college will put Loxahatchee Groves on the map. It'll open job opportunities. And so I'm against things like this. And it's, to me, it's a handful of people. And I'm not going to mention their names, but there's 2 people that's been pursuing this, going around trying to get people to sign a petition. One of them's not even a registered voter. Both of them are in code violations with the town, and we are pursuing those matters. One of them had a code violation, fees and fines waiver over $3,000. So I'm assuming he can take the $3,000 that this council wavered for him to pay the town and the residents. He could probably use that $3,000 to fight us in a court of law. So no, I support Mr. Rocket, and the sooner we get something, the happier I'll be.
Okay, Tom?
Mike, let me ask you a question. You were saying right now that because of the lack of 10 people on the committee, that they don't have a valid petition at this moment?
Well, they petitioned, but they don't have a committee to collect the signatures. The charter requires a committee of 10 to collect signatures. There's with this resignation, unless there's been a replacement filed with the town clerk, they've only got 9.
Okay, so what happens with the 60 days? Does it start up again?
I think it continues because this committee commenced the process.
It continues, so the time, the count is on it.
I believe so, yes.
All right, I'll reserve any further comments now.
Yeah, I've got a problem with that, Mike, the simple fact that there's basically 2 main people that's going out collecting signatures. I talked to half a dozen people, and they were only approached by 2 people, the same 2 people. Now, why do they need a committee of 10 if only 2 people is going to be the ones going out and getting the signatures?
The charter says they need to have 10.
Which means if they don't have 10, whatever they collect during the period of time, they don't have 10 or not valid.
They may not be valid, correct.
Okay, and I said I didn't have any clear. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
they
clarifying.
don't, they need to have 10 in order to be a committee under your charter.
Now, here's the problem I have with that. I believe I seen Ms. Gonzalez on Channel 5 tonight. And Channel 5, Ryan Calhoun asked her how many signatures she had. And she said, that's for us to know. So, I mean, how do we know they haven't already collected 10 or 20 signatures and they just keep adding them up if these signatures are not counting? I'm hoping they would have dated the petitions, and that can be forged too. So,
Well,
help me out here.
I don't want to get into that kind of conduct, but they did not ask the town clerk to create the form. Okay, they created their form. If the form doesn't provide sufficient information at the time they collected, the town clerk may make a determination that petition signatures are sufficient, and they get a very brief period of time to fix that. One of the items in their own form is the data collection. The data collection does not correspond with when they've had an active committee who will probably challenge those signatures as qualifying under the charter. And that would be another basis for requiring a judge to basically come in and say, you've got the statute that says you're not to have referendum or comp plan amendments. You've got a petitions committee that didn't meet the qualifications of the charter while they collected signatures. If they're actually proceeding, well, they only have 9. And then, of course, there may be signatures on that petition. We don't know that because we haven't gotten it, that aren't electors of the town. Because they have to be electors of the town. Just because they live here doesn't mean they can sign it. Just because they shop here doesn't mean they can sign it. So there are all sorts of verifications that need to go through, and they are charged with responsibility of complying completely with the charter. And we're not charged with giving them any legal advice or any counsel. You know, the town clerk is not charged to give, she does not give candidates advice when they file things with the town. We don't give, you know, that they have, their petition was filed in fact by an attorney. They can get all the advice they need from him.
One other question, I'll leave it alone. If we ignore this petition, I know it's against the charter and stuff, but if we ignored it, what would be the route for us to take as a town? Would we go to court, or would they take us to court, the petitioners?
Well, it could go either way. I would tell you that the preference from the courts is to see the city not try to make the determination itself that it's illegal. Basically say, Judge, we think it's illegal, but you confirm that for us. So if they're able to proceed, because right now it's not right. They don't have a committee. They don't have the signatures. At the point where, anywhere up to the point where you need to make a decision whether to rescind it or not, because you make that first call, you can give direction to seek a judicial confirmation. I would say that this is a valid referendum, and I would think, given the circumstances in the states, that would be my recommendation if it would proceed to that point.
Okay, go ahead. Mike, I think I heard you discuss briefly the form that they've created themselves, and it has no information on there relative to those that are signing about any implications that this may have. There's very little there. If anything, it just says repeal this, basically. Now, that doesn't sound quite right to me, but I guess that's something that could be determined in the future.
Yeah.
The other thing that is clear to me, if that's not being done, then there's no reason that they're providing either to say why they think it's a good idea to pursue that and have these ordinances reversed. So it seems like they don't have to tell anybody anything, they just have to have this kind of blank sheet of paper you can sign, because as far as I'm concerned, people look at that ordinance, they don't know what it means. I mean, from what I understood, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but the person who withdrew their name didn't even know the college was approved, and that they were undoing what was already done.
Right.
One last thing, in this town, since we are a small town and a rural town, I'd like to believe that we can still give our word. When we adopt an ordinance, that's our word. It's not just a political statement, it's not just a law statement. That is our word. We have 5 council members up here. They gave our word to this college. And as far as I'm concerned, each one of us will stand by our word and do everything we can to make sure that the college is allowed to build where they purchase land and where they have said they want to do it.
Okay. I am for the college, and I think it's one of the best things we can happen in our town alongside the boulevard. I am embarrassed that just literally a couple of days after the college announced the purchase of the land was when this petition now came out. Now, I have to disagree with Ron on one thing, because if you understand the referendum they're trying to put through, the first thing is to change it back from RR5 to commercial. So we would not be buying back RR5 land at $4.5 million. We'd be buying back commercial at a potential 323,000 square feet of commercial that would be allowed on there at a 0.1 basis, which, you know, is typically used along Southern. And it probably would not be 4.5. It would probably be 7 million, you know, because it would now be commercial land. It would not be RR5 land. So, you know, to understand the implications, and for some residents in Loxahatchee Groves to put our town under the gun when we had plenty of open meetings and we talked about this thing and we addressed the issues and the items and we invited people to go up and look at the campuses, the other campuses. And like Jim said, we came out here in trust, presenting our town as honorable, and we've got residents that come through like this. This sounds like something that would be done in Chicago or one of these other cities. And I'm embarrassed to say that that has happened here. So yes, we will do everything we can to stop this thing in its track and continue the college to go on like it is. So anyway, that's my comment.
One quick comment. I think actually it's more ironic than anything, Mayor, is that if this was to go through, the college may end up with 300 and something thousand square feet of commercial that, you know, they could put in a giant shopping center, go into a new business. But I don't know. I don't think that this is in the best interest of the community. I really don't.
All right, any other council members? Ron?
Mr. Mayor, sometimes I disagree with you, but I want to thank you for your comment because I was trying to tell the taxpayers they'd only have to pay out $4,800 per homeowner. So now I have to correct it and say about $7. You know.
Now, Dr. Gallo, I'm not giving you any ideas there, but anyway.
So thank you, Mayor. That helped me out as far as fighting this.
Yeah.
We'll be a new city.
Yeah.
You know, the folks that are filing this petition, and you know, that they have a right to do so, but I do hope, like how Jim and some of the other members said, you know, I do hope they fully explain the pros and cons and possible ramifications. I think the thought of us purchasing land at 4.5 or even higher, you know, it's a big problem for the town. I mean, I know we have some money, but we don't have 4.5 plus. And so that's something to seriously think about. So,
All right, I've got some public comments. Lungshu, I wholeheartedly support the college. To be in Los Angeles Groves College is good for the town. Frank Shiloh.
Frank Shaw, Marcel Boulevard. You know, when I heard about this thing, I just couldn't believe that you know, this would happen. Like I said, this has been going on over a year. It's been placed in the public view, in newspapers, the TV stations have reported on. And now this comes up right after the purchase of the property. So, you know, pretty much if this referendum goes through, my taxes will go up in 1 or 2 years, you know, maybe $3,500
Yeah.
for me for 2 years or more. You know, I won't be able to afford to live here, and most of us won't be able to afford to live here. This is becoming Wellington if we go ahead and have to pay a tax rate like this. Actually, this is becoming Palm Beach, because that's what taxes they pay on Palm Beach. And that's ridiculous. I'm glad that the council is standing unified on this. I stand with the council on this. I think this is ridiculous that these people would do something like this. And I have a question. I think that we need to explore all the options here, and these people on this committee need to know exactly what they're getting themselves into. And I have a question, and I would hope that the council would direct the town attorney to answer this, is there a possibility that, say this referendum goes through, and the council or the community college says, hey, we're backing out of this and all that, and now we, but hey, like Mayor Browning said, yeah, we're looking for, $10 million because now it's been reverted back to commercial. But we can't build on that because, we'll have to go somewhere else. We're not going to go ahead and that's taxpayer money that was spent. We need to recoup it. Now they take us to court, they sue us, and they win. Could these people on this committee also be party to that lawsuit?
Mike?
Probably not, but it's a good thought. No, all kidding aside, if you got to the point where you had to make a decision on whether to rescind or not, my recommendation will be to get a judicial determination. You have to do this because the consequences to the town are that significant. And I think that there are facts and law distinguishable from what is out there right now. If it got to to the point where it unfortunately went through and the referendum, for whatever reason, passed, we would definitely have to deal with some issues. And I believe they would be very significant issues for the town. I don't think that you can bring these committee folks in and have them be responsible for that. There is a right under the charter to the referendum. It's just, again, it may be limited by the application of state law on this particular subject. So,
And something else, and thank you for answering that, but, you know, something else. You know, we're talking about maybe $5,000, $7,500, could be as high as $10,000 per residential unit here. There's not that many people I know right now, even in the past when times were good, that could go and afford a tax bill like that, along with everything else that comes in there. We all know that the county and all their MSTUs and all their other stuff is going to be raising every year. And nobody will want to come to Lox Edge Groves ever again. I mean, we will have vacant land here, and some people may like that, and that's great. But, you know, like you said, you gave your word, and through ordinance, and it was done not behind closed doors. People have been, I've had a couple people come up to me saying, hey, I hear that this is going to be a college town. This is what's out there. It's a college town. It's going to be like Gainesville. You know, Palm Beach Community College is not like Gainesville. The community does not center around the college. That is just one part of the community. And this is what I'm hearing. Nobody's come up to me and asked me to sign a petition because they know exactly what I'll say. And I'm just floored by this. You know, that you know, they're telling people out there, oh, traffic will be bumper to bumper on all these dirt roads and all these side roads. That there's going to be kids running around screaming and hollering after the big football games. You know, Palm Beach State, I don't think even has a football team. You know, these are things that are being said, and these are lies. You know, all you have to do is go to the website for Palm Beach State College and look on there. This is a community college. That is it. There isn't going to be any kids drunk, drinking, racing around Lox Edge Groves or anyplace else. And if anybody thinks they're going to be coming down B Road to all them speed humps that we put on it, even though they're going to be a little bit more like Jim Rocket wants, they're going to be coming off of Southern Boulevard because people are into getting there fast. And they don't have to have a reason. They're just there to get there fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Okay, I've got one here that wants read in the record, Todd McClendon. He is one of those on the committee. As a member of the committee, I want to explain why I've chosen to help allow the voters of Lox Edge Grove to voice their opinion. I am not specifically concerned as to college being in a town, which is really strange to me that it costs us this much. I am concerned as to what the college will attract. The current and future council members will be plagued with a great deal of commercial development and urban-type residential areas inconsistent with our town. You know, please, I wish people had attended these, and I'm disappointed because Todd did attend these, and all these were answered. As a community, the residents opted in favor of incorporating the town to preserve its rural character and preserve the rural lifestyle. The college does not help preserve this town. It simply does the complete opposite. I'm very personally familiar with what happens when you mix farming and city slickers. It simply does not work. I have heard threats. This could bankrupt the town if the college sues to get a refund on the purchase. I have heard a referendum is expensive and costs money. The town has the very least doubled its spending on town government over the last few years with little regard to what the residents think. Now the town wants to block something as important as listening to the voters with regard to the largest single impact this town probably will ever face. If the referendum is initiated, it will simply allow voters to decide. If the voters decide not to allow the college to impact their community, then there are simply 5 people who are responsible for the cost incurred. The town council members who allowed the college without really knowing what the voters actually wanted. I have had time to speak with the residents as I'm getting signatures for the referendum. I have been shocked to the distaste people have for the college. At least 95% of people that I have approached have agreed that a referendum is needed. For the town to do anything to detour this is a slap in the face and clearly shows the voters' opinion is not important. If we were still unincorporated in Palm Beach County and the county tried to put a college without the residents' input, then everyone would be outraged. Why is it okay for the town to supersede the voters and decide to go ahead? It is not okay. Howard Gordon.
Mr. Mayor, one comment quickly on that. The voters in this community that I've spoken to, I think like Ron has alluded to, and maybe the ones you talked to, definitely expressed their opinion, and their opinion and what they felt support of the college was what I took into account.
Howard?
Howard Warren, B. Road. I'd like the council to maybe learn from our mistakes and possibly approach the attorney to keep things like this from happening in the future. Possibly the charter can be amended so there is some type of time limit once a situation passes a certain threshold, that this is no longer allowable. You cannot control the lies that people tell other people to get them to sign their name. You can only help to educate them as to why they shouldn't have signed their name. That might be an idea, but I think it's highly advisable to look into changing the wording of the town charter so this is only allowable up to a certain point, and once we pass a certain threshold, the residents do not have that option. Once sufficient workshops and time has been given for resident input, there's got to be an end to something like this. I would also suggest that even though I doubt that the college would ever make the signers of the petition or the organizers of the petition part of their lawsuit, I would definitely look into the possibility of the town taking some legal action, especially when they found out that many of the things that were told to the people that signed the petition were disingenuous, to say the least. And I would definitely suggest the town looking into that and let everybody know where we stand as a town. You are elected officials that we voted into office. You are elected to represent us. To come along at this late date and say 5 people shouldn't be allowed to make an important decision that's so weighty on the community is not the way this country runs. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Philomena?
Philomena Liu, 4245 and 48 Terrace North. I just have something very simple and very short to say. For people that is running around with a petition, I'd like to know, this is for a college, for kids to go in there. I want to know those people that are signing, if their kids or any of their family or relatives would go to that college, number one. And number two, for them to object to the roads and the traffic. If they don't live near there, it doesn't bother them. It shouldn't affect them. So I don't understand why these people that object to the college being there, if they're not going to go there, or anybody in the family, what should it bother them? And if they don't live in the neighborhood, I don't think the traffic should bother them too. So I would suggest people, when they make accusations like that, that they look at it seriously and not just create a time, effort, and problem for the rest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Philomena. Darlene Sherpaul is the last one I've got.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council. Darlene Snowball, live at 3116, 161st Terrace North. I've been here over 18 years. My family was Snowball. I have owned land here since the 1960s. Yes, growth. Like I said, the first time I spoke a couple months ago about this college, I'm all for it. You know, growth is inevitable. I grew up in unincorporated Broward, where I used to drag race out. There are over 3 million homes right now, and it's going to happen here. And like I said before, the people that are against this, get in your vehicles. You ride east on Southern Boulevard, and every single solitary blue sign, which I've actually seen more, is commercial. We're very blessed to have a college. Michelle Damone was here. They have a library. I would have been blessed to have a library. That's a gorgeous library. You know, the college is wonderful for this town. You know, it's not a party. The Palm Beach Community College, my son goes there right now. He goes to Palm Beach Gardens. It's not a party. They don't drink. You go to school. He goes, 2.5 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. He does a virtual at home. You go, you leave. It's not a college like Gainesville or, FAU or anything like that. This is a wonderful thing. We have control. The other thing is, in 50 years from now, when this is probably said and done, I'm going to be 98, 99 years old. Half the people that are against this, they're probably not even going to be here on Earth. So let's just all get together as a town, bring this in, let it happen, because you will end up with Maruni Dodge, Ford, Chevrolet, a Walmart, a Target. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Thank you again.
Hey, Darlene. All right. Any other comments by council members? We've got, Jim made an action thing that everybody's in consensus on. Right? Mike, you got that?
Well, it was bring back a resolution and review the, provide some legal analysis of your options at the next meeting.
Do we need that, do we need it in a motion, or is that just, we're all right?
Yeah, I would prefer a motion.
I make such motion.
Second.
Second by Ron. Further discussion, Ron?
Mike, one other question. Howard Warren got up and spoke. I would like for you to pursue what he suggested also, if it's in agreement with the council members, to prevent this from happening again. In other words, a time limit. We don't need to make decisions. We will not be able to honor the decisions we make because somebody comes up with a petition after the fact. So can we get a consensus of the council that at the same time he's working on the resolution, he can work on that?
Well, let's do one at a time.
It's a charter change. That would require a lot more steps.
Last comment is, when we were going up against Cowrie and Judge because of our charter, we finally agreed to hire the best lawyers in Palm Beach County, and that was Gunster. We call them the big guns, but we knew that they could probably Sir, please keep control.
Sorry. I know I brought some weight, but that's not fair.
We call them the big guns, but we've all got a letter here from Gunster's law firm because they represent the college. And it was a very nice letter. I don't think I would have been as nice if I'd been the law firm representing the college, but it was nice. And instead of reading 4 pages, I just want to read a couple paragraphs. And one of them is, finally, even if the referendum went forward and the comprehensive plan amendments were rescinded, the town would be subject to significant liability pursuant to at least the Bert J. Harris Jr. Property Rights Protection Act. As noted above, this liability exists regardless of whether the rescission is based on the town council's actions or the citizens' initiative. Although we are hopeful that it would never come to this, we feel that we must advise the town that the college will be forced to seek compensation for the taking of its rights if the comprehensive plan amendments are rescinded. This would subject the town to liability of at least $4,500,000. And then I added plus legal fees. If the citizens of the town, however, decide they do not want the college as part of their community, they will need to reimburse the college for the $4.5 million that the college has spent for the property in reliance to the town's approval for the development of the campus. And the last thing I'll say is we can go to a referendum and we can vote on this, and there's no doubt in my mind we will win the vote to support the college. Because I know most of the people in Loxahatchee. These people on this petition, I only know a couple of them, and that's because of their code violations and stuff, and their character. But most of them on this thing I do not know, so I can understand.
Move forward in that direction. Okay. I'd like to support what Mark just said. I would dissociate myself with any comments made that attempt to get around sunshine or any other laws in the state of Florida. Democracy is a messy thing. If we could have a dictatorship and somebody just makes up a set of rules and we'll go with them, we could, avoid these meetings. But if sunshine calls for it, and if the people in the town are already saying that they're not being listened to, now we want to create a committee of one to make determine, at least in China they have 7 people in this committee. So, I completely dissociate myself with that.
Any other council members?
Yeah. Have you, Mark, in your experience seeing the use of Committee One? I'm trying, I mean, I understand, I think I understand Hal's comment about trying to be efficient. When we were doing the ULDCs, we had the option to send something to town managers and the boss. Not every one of us did it on a regular basis on every subject. What we did structure our ULDCs was we started from page one and worked ourselves through. And we might have had some interruptions there, but we had beginning to end. I think one of the other comments, I think last time we discussed this was Mayor made mentioned that he'd like to know what the people of this community, I think if I understood him right, that what their thoughts were on anything they also were looking for. So part of what we probably want to do is to make it known, however we do that. But sometimes you have to make it known, really well known that people don't hear you or they don't read about it, but let them have also, an input as to, this is something I'd like you to look at, or this is something I hate, whatever it might be, and take that input as part of the guidance that we, or part of the information and feedback to the committee. But I definitely, a committee of one, as it may run the efficiencies, I don't think it's what I would want. And I would like to see 7, but 5 would be, I guess, like Ryan said, we run out of people to choose from. So 5 hopefully is enough. But I would also like in conjunction some feedback from the town. However we get, and we may get one response, but at least, if we make it very clear that this is going on and this is an opportunity to bring up some subject, we will feed that in. But also the council, I guess, we will have input to you to say, these are some of the things. And one of the things I want to include, have this committee look at, is what we've already identified as missed when we originally, council originally approved part of the ULDC that was not incorporated in our final ULDC document, and the council has chosen, and that's fine, to let it fall in place later when we go into the review of the land use code. But there's already a ready list that Jim's organization put together that said, here's what you guys had approved, and here's what you came out with, which did not get approval. And a couple of those things we've addressed, and one of them was the size of the flag, which the college helped us understand we missed it. Because when they said we can't go with a small flag like you guys approved, the rest of the thing is, what do you mean we approved 4x6, that's it? So that would be one of the items that I would like to lay out. Let them take a cut at it and say some of these things we would like to, we support, and some of them we don't. But eventually I want the council to look at all of those that we identify as being missed and decide whether they want to incorporate them. So the other thing, the last thing was, we're adding committees to your list of things to do. We've had a conversation once before about how many meetings in a week that you should handle and cope with. And I think we talked about limiting it to 2. So that would be all committees, all council meetings. We're all be happy to give up one of our council meetings to a committee meeting, but that may not happen this week, so we keep trying. So there is a limit. So I don't know, are we at a point where you have now more than 8 meetings a month, or 9, being that we might have?
No, we're not there yet, but let me propose something, if I may. What's been generated is based upon the concept that council talked about at its last meeting. If cost is a factor that you're concerned about, there is another alternative, and it's one that we talked about. Now, we saw that trying to do the ULDC review on your normal regular meeting is going to be burdensome and tough to do. One of the things we also talked about, and I think it was probably brought up by some of the members of the council, is that we reserve the second meeting of every month for council to do that, in which case then there's no work authorization because it's part of our normal town duties to put everything together and to work, and then there's no cost to you. And then what we would do is we would work everything out with you, and then it would go to P&Z as the advisor. But that puts the burden back on town council, and it means every second meeting of the month would be devoted to a ULDC review. So That is an alternate method if you're concerned about cost, that we could attempt to do. Just tossing it out there, so consider all the alternatives.
That's an alternative to a committee.
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell you what, let's get through the rest of the public comments and then we'll pick it up again. Virginia?
Thank you. Virginia Standish, 15410 North Road. I had supported the mini committee. I still support the idea of a committee or review the ULDCs. You have my public comment questioning the way we can keep the costs down. It's not my intention to cost this town money. We've spent $3,000 recently reviewing the ULDCs. We're going through it as a process. Whatever consensus you come to, there are people willing to help you. I did not mean to offend anybody by suggesting the committee, go along with committee of one concept. I just thought it was legally possible to do because it had been previously done. Whatever you do decide, I think what is really important, the meeting code only shows the rules through 2010. Many of us in the town do not even know what the current codes are. You're still reviewing them, there needs to be change. If you can just, whatever you do decide, whether it's creating this committee, doing it yourselves, if you could at least, let us know so we can provide input, which codes you're working on in advance, so we can provide comments from the public to you, so there's no surprise that people did not know what was going on. Also, if we could just be advised, maybe through the Landowners Association, somebody comes out, speaker gets comments at the Landowners Association. But either way, I think we all know the ULDC needs to be reviewed and completed, and I appreciate whatever you do about it.
Thank you, Virginia. Okay, Larry Lefkowitz. And then I've got Mark here.
I'm Larry Lefkowitz, 3485 Green Road. And I kind of wrote some stuff, I just don't read it. It's relating to this agricultural committee and also kind of goes back to a couple of things that happened at the last meeting, which I wasn't at. Loxahatchee Groves is zone AR, agricultural and residential. Our town is a lawn crop agricultural.
Excuse me, Larry. Really, this is just this ULDC committee.
Right, this is relating to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is through the selection of the committee.
Oh, just the selection?
That's what we're talking about tonight. The process of selecting the committee.
Oh, okay.
We're really not kicking around the items that are on it or anything like that tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I think we're talking about a committee concept.
You're authorizing the committee.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're not talking about the items we're going to be discussing. That would take all night.
Okay.
We're just talking about the concept of forming the committee and doing that. That's what we're doing here. So I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent tonight
Okay.
and talk about the things we need to deal with, because we know we've got a lot of things we need to deal with within that.
Okay.
So if you want to address what we're doing as far as putting together a committee and how you think it ought to form, then that's, or what it should be.
Well, it was, more it was relating to the whole point of putting that committee together and what is it going to deal with? I mean, what's the whole motivation behind doing it, really?
Well, and I think we have identified a lot of areas. And my hope is that as residents of Loxahatchee Groves contact us, but I have a problem with this part of ULDC, then we can instruct and go through and get this committee working on those.
Okay.
And then come back with the input and be able to deal with each one. And then, like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. We know we've got problems, we know we've got issues. And then we take it apart, let people know, and that they've got a place to go with the input and try to get resolution.
Okay. Well, I heard that you wanted input on this whole thing, so when would be a good time to express that?
What we're trying to do is come up with the concept tonight
Okay.
of which way we're going to go, whether we're going to do it at a second meeting or whether we're going to appoint a committee to do it. That's what we're talking about tonight.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you, Larry. Okay, Marge?
Marge Herzog, A Group. The present management company was contracted to handle 3 committees, the FAAC, the P&Z, gonna be reactivated. All right,
There was an issue with the chairman,
okay.
I may or may not be aware of.
All right. I just have an issue with constantly being asked for the taxpayers to come up with more money. I mean, the two previous management companies, when they presented their figure, they worked within it. I mean, if there was more work put on them by the council, they worked around it. It wasn't always easy, you know? Every time we turn around, it seems like the company is asking for more money. And I think we're moneyed out. You know, I've said before that they're still having issues with not abiding by the contract that exists. I mean, they're not posting their audios.
Mr. Mayor, I think you asked for the specifics of the subject being addressed, and I'm not hearing you ask the same thing now.
Yeah.
I'm justifying why I don't think the 16,000 should be.
We're not talking about the 16,000, we're talking about the committee itself right now. That's a separate, the money's a separate issue.
Okay.
Okay. Cassie?
Hi, Cassie Suchi, 35 B Road. I just had an experience, like I said, with the committee members, I think it was Howard, what he was saying. A lot of the equestrians with the Greenway committees got frustrated because they were drowning in procedures and protocol, and nobody could put anything in because somebody sneezed and it was like, oh, that's not on the agenda, you can't do that. So a lot of them won't even get involved. Like Councilman Gerald said, maybe you can have your committee and then maybe have some type of workshop so you don't have to have all this protocol. You can have an open forum where people can put in suggestions, get the work done, and then the committee can have their meeting where they bring the management company in and all the protocol that they have, and then take all those suggestions and put them together. But just my experience with the equestrian committee and a lot of the people I've talked to, they won't go back because you can't get anything done. They're drowning in protocol. So maybe that's what he was trying to say. Have some type of workshop, I don't know what you call it, but some way, and then have your committee members that you pick take the final product to you.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Thank you, Cassie. Yeah. Right.
This is the 21st century. We all got our phones with emails and whatnot. Why can't we set up a message board and then that way the people they can post on it and then and they can talk on it. That it is public forum. So that way it is sunshine and it can move it along a lot faster. I mean, you get the message out, I'll get the message on my phone within 5 minutes of them posting. So that way it can move along, and then you have the real meeting, and then you do, and that way at the real meeting, if we need Mike and we need you to put together and finish it up, then that's where we'll go with that. I think if we can utilize the internet and message board or something like that, if we could move it along a lot faster.
I agree, that was something I was gonna tell you, that was gonna be our full intent if the committee was formed, and if we were doing that, we were going to talk about the committee, list the dates, indicate, whether they want to send us email, or whether it's done through a mechanism of message board or whatever, comments that they want staff to be aware of when they're handling the meeting, and all those kinds of things. Yeah, that's wonderful. The more emails, the more input we get, the great, the better it is.
I don't believe the council can participate on the message board.
The message board among members is maybe an issue with sunshine. I mean, there's a phrase, and I'm sure everybody agree with it, the law can be an idiot. And it's not caught up with the technology. Sunshine law is very strict, and there's no exceptions for virtual meetings. If you all could not meet over the internet, even if you posted it and there's live feeds and now go to meeting.com, anything's possible with 5 TV screens and then all of us in one and whatever. Anybody can log on and watch and chime in and whatever, and that's just not anything that the law is caught up to. There's physical meetings, physical attendance, and the message board presents an issue because it does provide an opportunity for dialogue outside a noticed meeting. So it makes sense. I don't disagree with you, but the law doesn't seem to want to enable that kind of meetings just yet. But again, what you did before with one-way communication, these members don't, the members share information, package is put together, it's sent to them in advance of the meeting, direction given from you all, what the subject matter should be, or whatever. There's notice so that people are prepared to talk. That's all things that can be done and fully compliant with no question about the sunshine law.
Okay.
Question, Mr. Mayor, if we have a committee, how and when does the council beat this elephant?
How to do what?
Eat the elephant.
How do we eat the elephant if we have a committee, and does it also, does it amount to once a month, the council sees or hears a piece of the puzzle presented to them, and they have then, and P and Z board has already seen it. It's the process that got to make its way to the council. So how do we do that with a committee? I'm not going to wait until the end of the year and go through a ULDC package at one time. So if we have to do it monthly as a council, anyway, I'm just wondering what we're doing with the committee making, spending their time on the subject. Having committee help us, I think, Cassie, something that maybe you're saying is that if we have a group or a committee that can put things together that maybe are coming from the community, package them somehow or provide us with small bites to take and maybe recommendations. But we're still talking about committee feeding the council, and the council's going to have, we can't take it all on one shot.
Well,
So how does that work?
the way I envisioned it, obviously, town manager is being charged with being the secretary, so it's going to be important that I'm able to keep the committee on task. What I envisioned was probably at the end, a 70 or 75-page document that in many cases the committee may make a determination, that a number of sections are fine, nothing is needed, and indicate that. And then where sections do need to be amended, possibly have some suggested wording that would go to council, and then council would say, okay, now go, yes, we're okay with this, go forward to the planning and zoning board, have it vetted through there, and then back to you. Yes, it is a messy process, but the one thing, it's very difficult to do that piecemeal, because what happens is you might, the committee could do maybe 4 or 5 months of work, and maybe have a number of suggestions as to how to amend the ULDC. But while you're starting to go through that, and they're still continuing their work, they may make other suggestions that impact what you're already starting to work on, and you could have all kinds of chaos, because in many cases, these ULD sections do build on other sections, and there's a lot of consistency among the sections. So you can't just totally compartmentalize them when you're doing a process like that.
As a part, I would think you could compartmentalize the concept. We've had references to other sections of the land use code. If you take on the subject, let's take on every section of the land use code that deals with that subject. But you said something to me that I thought I heard, 75 pages to the council,
That was a guess.
and some of them are no changes.
Yeah, there would be a report telling you each section, is there a change necessary? Is the section deemed fine by the committee? What would they recommend? That's really what you're asking the committee to do. I don't think you're asking the committee to pose a problem and then not at least give you a solution. Otherwise, it's back in your court and back into P&Z's court.
Well, I guess when you say 75 pages, that's a chunk of change that we took a number of months to address 200 pages. And so that's a number of months, a smaller number to do 75 pages. My thinking was if we get a recommendation of changes, that's what I would expect, not these things are okay. This may be, if you, for example, if you follow the logic that we're dealing with subject matter, then if the subjects are presented to the council, and there's only portions of that subject that are recommended changes, then the council should be able to determine that. That means the rest of the subject matter probably was addressed, and part of what the committee would do, and part of what your help would do is say, we addressed the whole subject. These are the areas that we find that changes might be necessary or suggested. And then we do that in piecemeal, if we can do it by subject. If I agree, if you can get enough segregation by subject, then we can take on a subject and move forward on it. then we could address it as a council, but not, I'm not looking for 14 months worth of work in one night. I'm not looking for 75 pages worth of changes in one night. I mean, if we want 75 pages of items to be given to us, we need to study that. And we won't, I don't think, get through all 75 pages in any one meeting. We've had, and that's the longest meeting we've ever had, still wouldn't get us there. So it's, the mechanism, if you have a committee, we have a mechanism how the council sees it, works with it, and gets something done. Because you can have a committee that meets forever. If we can't get through the council, and certainly not give it to the council in one big bite and say approve it or don't approve it. And that's not, I think, what many of us are interested in. So a concept of input from the community, some direction or some segregation, I'll use that term, as to subject matter, that maybe there's a few of the items that come from the community touch on different parts of the same subject, and maybe that's the first one that's taken on.
There are some sections that could be compartmentalized, but there are others that I know we're writing an amendment right now, and in terms of writing an amendment, the Hay Amendment, for example, it touches on a lot of sections that are currently in the code that you have to address in order to properly deal with the amendment. So that's what I was getting at. But yeah, we could break it up into, nobody would expect you maybe to get through a document like that in one meeting. I didn't mean to say that, that would be the case. But I guess what I was saying is, it's going to be a lengthy process, because after the committee finishes its work, there's still going to be some meetings that the P&Z are going to have to take on as the LPA, and plus, getting your all's blessing as well.
The way I envision it, the council and all, was that the resolution says that the committee works at the subject matters as directed by council. So the first, when you point, maybe the next step is that there's a recommendation from town management on the first set of subjects that we looked at, because you do have some right now. You have the list of inconsistencies, and you have, for example, I know one quote-unquote zoning in progress for special events that had been started and not brought back to you for formal adoption. Those are things that are in the pipeline that the committee could start on while you go back and prioritize other subject matters. It's not, that's the way I had the resolution provides at the direction of the council. You basically tell them the items you need advice on, and you can use that, and as you progress, the resolution also provides that the night could be extended. You don't want that, but that's why it's sunshine, because, sunset, because you're done. And whenever there's a goal and there's a deadline, things get done. But that is one mechanism of controlling the volume in the subject matters, is that the first step is to confirm that these are subject matters that you want advice on from this advisory committee.
And to me, that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yes.
Number one is we need to get with the public and find out what issues are hot issues with them, that we deal with it. Our own planning and zoning and our staff already has a list of things we need to deal with. So we need to get those, we need to get them prioritized, and then my thought is we go to the committee. I'm not looking to revisit the whole document. It's really easy to sit in here and say, oh, it's just shot to pieces. Oh, there's all kinds of, and I think sometimes that's like us as parents saying, oh, you messed up 1,000 times, well, no, you didn't, really 4. So I think we need to get down and get practical, or we will get overwhelmed. And I'm not looking to redo it. I'm looking to get these items that we need to straighten out, and as we do that, it becomes easier. Get the hot items taken care of first, and and then get a system for the public input, prioritizing, and then take care of them in that. And then you're right, it'll be part of your staff job as to saying, okay, this will also affect other places in this document, and advise us supporting them, or this committee will be doing it, is my thought.
One quick comment, Mr. Mayor, is the structure doesn't preclude the committee in their gathering to actually make recommendations themselves back to the council. And then, for example, they may say, well, if you're interested in this item, why don't we add this to it because it's interwoven or something. So it doesn't put up any roadblocks as to communication, which is what we want to leave all the input from all sources open, I think.
Right. Okay. Any other council members? on it. Ron?
Just a quick comment. We've got three priorities that's bad in this town. One is the mulching business. We've got an outfit that, and the lawn maintenance and landscaping business. We've got that. We've got a mulching outfit now. Instead of stockpiling vegetation and stuff, now they're stockpiling asphalt that's been, where the roads have been broken up. And the other thing, which to me is a special events thing, I think we're going to talk about one tonight, but especially when the special event is something that benefits the community. So that's just, those are three priorities that we're having problems with now, and we've been having problems with them for over a year.
All right. So what do we need right now? We're still back to the putting together a committee. All right, do we need to put together a 5-person committee? Is that the decision we're trying to make right now?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it seems like we're doing the same thing that we
You
get
want
into
to
us
create the
later.
committee and how many members and everything that Mike talked about in the resolution.
Right. All right. So does someone want to put that together in the form of a motion?
The motion would be that Resolution 2012-19 represent Committee 5 as outlined to us. And the subject matter will be as also outlined that we would come from the council through town management and according to the rest of the structure as outlined as we make that.
Okay. Second to that?
Second with the proviso that it's elected.
Yeah, I was gonna go through that once so you could understand the motion. We're gonna go down.
So long ago we agreed.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes, including, of course, the electric change.
Okay, Mike, what do you
Yeah, the
think?
motion would be to adopt a resolution with amendment 1B to provide as elector of the town. I would just point out, when it said duty, it says that they would review and provide recommendations on changes to the town's currently adopted ULPC consistent with direction from the town council. So it does provide that it would come to you, to them, from you to them, excuse me.
All right, so that's your motion? We have a
Motion, I'm sticking to it.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Ron? Oh, that's right. Tom seconded. Further discussion? Okay, Howard?
I'd just like minimal clarification on a sentence that I heard in that. The wording sounded to me as if everything the committee would be considering would come from the town council,
Through the town council.
through the town council, which doesn't address my concern as well as Councilman Rocket's concern that ideas that emanate from members of the committee, even if they aren't suggested by the town council, can be addressed, as well as recommendations from residents.
I think the intent was to address them all, but the intent was to try to prioritize them. So we'll need that input, otherwise we're just kind of going here and there and we're not going to get. So my thought was that if we can all get our heads together with everybody's input and prioritize, okay, these are the really important ones, we need to get on them right away, and these others can go. So, you know, I guess we were doing it just to make sure we knew which direction we were going.
Yeah, but does that, I guess we need to, does that preclude, once the priorities are handled,
No, I think we're going to be open always to input, you know.
does that
One of our
resolution
priorities
wording
could
that
be
resolution?
any citizen input.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I could get a
That's one of our
clarification.
priorities.
Yeah, I mean, there's a subject matter. You've got a list of items that you want the board to do. They can obviously ask you to say, we've finished what you worked on, but we think we've got these other issues. And in the report, it says, okay, here's the advice on these sections you asked the board to look at. Here's the list of items that the board would like to look at, or are there other items you've received from the public, and you all say, okay, out of those 10, go back and look at these 5. You all decide the volume and direction, because what's going to happen is you'll get that report, then you'll act on it through directing that process, that adoption process, to start when they move on to Part B and then Part C.
Sure.
But the way it's written is they advise you of what you request to be advised on.
Well, and I think the committee itself, if they've got other things to say, you know, this also kicks over this, I think that's a good idea to be able to report at that time.
And I understand, I appreciate the fact that I see a clarification there, because I want to make sure I'm understanding where you're coming from. I appreciate the fact that the town council obviously identifies priorities and things to be looked at, obviously staff appreciate that. But I know in a lot of our discussions, you all talk about going through the entire document, that's why my comments have been made, so it now sounds like you're getting away from that. I think I want to just like to focus back, what is it, I mean, do you really want to do the whole document, or now
No.
we're only talking, doing some selected portion?
We're talking about doing the areas where we have problems with. I'm not talking about addressing the whole document.
Okay, because that's what has been said in the past, that's why I just want to make sure.
Well,
I'm aware.
yeah, we've had comments saying the whole thing's, you know, a piece of garbage. We paid a lot of money for a piece of garbage, you know. I don't think there's a problem with every part of it. We need to identify, I am not in it to reinvent this thing. We already spent a lot of money on that thing. So we need to go through and customize what we need to take care of and take care of the problem issues. And my thought, I mean, council, right? You know, I'm not looking to readdress the whole thing. I'm looking,
They don't need to go word for word for word, but the entire thing is open to review. If anybody brings up the need to
There you
change
go.
a particular page or says, I want to change this sentence, then it's all open. No, there's no page that's closed.
there's nothing off limits, but we're not automatically going to go through the whole thing.
That's tough.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I clarify.
yeah, okay. Frank Sherrill?
10A. 10A.
Oh, headache, I'm sorry. Didn't look. All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jim, aye. You made the motion. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Yeah, let's take a quick break, stretch. What's that? Work authorization. I know, that's the next issue. It's just 7B, or is your part is part of 7A, right? Okay. Let's go backwards.
Yeah, we'll talk about the work authorization.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can talk about work on it, that's all 7A. You said 7B.
Yeah, well, I did, but then when you said it was still part of 7A, so.
This is 7A.
Okay.
Open your ears.
Well, question on the work authorization, staff is going to be doing a lot of time relative to the comments about Ms. Herzog. As you know, this is a new item that we've added. It's not something, you know, based upon the contract amendment we did. It's very clear when we add new things and there are the work authorizations. I've offered you an alternative if you don't want to do that. I mean, I've structured it so that that's a max and hopefully it'll be lower. I really don't want to get into the issues of, you know, I mean, I don't want to get into the issues. So, I mean, obviously, you know, I will say this, you may remember that we talked, the charter called for a charter review committee, in which each member of council could appoint 3 members. You may remember at the time, because I knew that was going to be a very labor-intensive thing, I recommended that there are other ways that you can make a charter without going through a charter review. And I suggested that, and council agreed, decided not to do that. That this is not necessarily a charter review committee, but it's like a charter review committee, you know, to a mini extent. So, I mean, I'll be happy to try to clarify any more, but in order to do the committee, I think you need to do this, otherwise we're going to have a staff, we're going to have a problem staff.
All right, council members, comments?
Get to the point, Mark. Let us vote on it.
All right. I'll open up for a motion.
Help me out here now. I'll make a motion that we do a work order. Is that what it is?
It's work authorization 1204.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve work authorization 1204.
Okay. And that's for how much?
Maximum.
Excellent.
Which doesn't include legal expenses or any advertising.
All right.
Those are things that are included.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments by council members? I've got no comments by the public on this one, unless yours is about that, Marge. Come on up.
I'll make the comment that when we don't have government light, it costs us money. And if we want to have government light, it'll be cheaper, but as Mark stated in his very first council meeting, as I recall, these ULDCs are not government light. So if we want to work towards government light, it's going to cost us something to get there. You know, I had said earlier we could resolve a lot of this through exempting the agriculture from the ULDCs, but no one wants to do that. So, you know, there are simple ways, and the simple ways have been avoided, and we need to, if we're going to get the input, we need to get the input. We can't expect them to work for free. And quite honestly, I don't know how much longer we should work for free. And have people be coming and saying, oh, let's just have the council do it, let's just have the council do it, let's just have the council do it. You know, this is not a charity, this is government. They're different. Many people get paid in government, and they get paid very well in comparison to people around here. So I don't think that, anybody should be looking to cheap out on this, if it's important.
Yeah, okay. Marge?
March Herzog, A Road. My only concern, like I've said in the past, is that there are many things in the contract that are not being fulfilled. I mean, the audios still are not being posted, you know, and we had paid as part of his agreement to have that done. We also paid for a newsletter. We've had one, maybe two at the most. You know, it was supposed to happen on a monthly basis or at least frequently, and that hasn't been happening. So for council to now go along with giving $16,000 again, you know, for something else, I think it's time to say no.
Mr. Mayor, I think that what we're discussing is the work authorization to do this particular issue. If there are members of the council who feel that Underwood Management is not living up to their contractual obligations, then they ought to address that. I personally don't feel that way at all. I'm quite satisfied. So, while I hear what Mark is saying, and would look for Mark to address those particular issues, I don't think there's a big problem. I really don't.
And I don't think those affect what we're doing tonight. My thought is, we spent money on doing our ULDCs. It probably came in under budget at the time. Maybe we got what we paid for, I don't know. But, you know, it needs some extra work on it and whatever we need to do. I hear what Tom's saying. If somebody could put me at ease that I wouldn't be opening up the door for things that I really didn't want in Loxahatchee Grove by just saying, you know, whatever they wanted, you know, there is going to be no, you know, controls. There is going to be no, you know, because I'm just afraid of what I don't know, I guess, more than anything. So that's why we have ULDCs, to try to say, okay, let's keep it within the lines. You know, I mean, Ron's talking about companies that are now not just doing mulch, they're, you know, grinding pavement. And, you know, and it's real easy to go from one to the other kind of with a facility, and then all of a sudden somebody might say, well, this is ag somehow, because, and I don't see how, but, you know, so those are some of my concerns. But anyway, all right, any other comments? We got a motion and a second regarding
I
this.
need a comment on Mr. Mayor, you kind of raised a couple points. One comment is that it's strange that in years we had a prior management company, none of the issues were raised that about lack of things being done, but there was a lot of lack of things being done. And now it seems like the time to raise that. One other point was, Mark, did you include in your proposal to us that you would run videos of our meetings? I don't believe I had that in part of your contract, but it seems like you're doing that.
We're doing that, and we're downloading audio and video.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it wasn't something I missed, that you were supposed to be doing something and you are doing it. But now this is the case where you weren't supposed to be doing, but you are doing instead, plus them. So, okay, well, that's nice to know. Point out. And Mr. Mayor, one of the things I share your unintended consequences concern. To just say, let's just make it a carte blanche, we'll do this. One of the concerns I have is that we are very much a unique community that is a combination. It's a combination of many facets that are qualified as that, and we keep forgetting residential. And because we're unique, I think we need to take a unique approach at making sure that those two entities coexist and have similar rights. So I think that's what we're trying to do. I think everybody on this council is interested in doing that. And so it may not be as easy as we'd like to make it, to have it happen. So I guess, but only relative to a couple things that were said, I would add.
We got started. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to 7B.
This is a resolution for a budget amendment, Resolution 2012-20. A resolution of the Town Council of the Town of La Cretche Grove, Florida, adopting a budget amendment to the town's budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2011 and ending September 30, 2012, providing for severability conflicts and an effective date.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, maybe some quick comments. As you know, we did this last year with the budget. By virtue of Florida statutes, you have 60 days in order to make sure that your budget is up to speed, that you've corrected all your line items, you don't have any line items in red. That's what this budget amendment is doing. And Bill Underwood has actually gone himself and gone ahead and taken any line items that we read and corrected them so that we meet the 60-day deadline, so that when we have our audit, because if you do have line items that may be reflecting a balance in the red, obviously you could get an audit finding, a negative audit finding. So what this does is this goes ahead and basically he has reallocated the money to make sure that all the line items are in black. And with that, I'll stop.
Okay. I have a motion to,
I'll make that one.
we have a motion for a resolution. A second? Second by Jim. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. We've already done an 8A, moving to 9A.
No, I do have a full other report. Besides that one. We did the first item in my report. That's okay. Okay, several quick items. The FAAC, we do have a vacancy that's been in place for a while since the resignation of Tim Johnson. And Mayor, I do believe that's your appointment. The committee continues to ask me, are they going to get a fifth member? And I indicated that I will, again, raise it and make somebody appointed. Likewise, we have an issue on the Planning and Zoning Board. We have vacancies with the two alternates. And one of the alternates, we have, well, there's actually vacancy in one alternate, and Veronica Close was alternate number 1, but the ordinance adopting the P&Z indicates that the alternates were only appointed for 1 year by council. So, Veronica has asked me, basically, is she still a member? And I said, I'm going to bring it to town council to see if they wanted to reappoint you as alternate 1. And then I guess we can go ahead and if council collectively doesn't have another person ready as alternate 2, we can try to go out and advertise and see if we can get some more people interested. But what we'd like to do is fill those alternate positions, particularly with Veronica, since she is a very good and contributing member of the board. So it's like a two-part thing. She's on, she just needs to be reappointed, and then we have to try to get a second alternate for the vacancy.
Okay.
Well, we can approve by motion.
Yes,
Veronica, or
you can reappoint her for another year.
I make a motion to reappoint for another year.
Second. Okay. Second by Kurt Tom first.
And if anybody is here tonight that might want to be the alternate 2, like Virginia overloaded with what she's doing, or if she would want to be an alternate, since she's got so much gray matter that I don't think we put it to full use. So if she would take on the alternate position for a year until somebody else takes them up, volunteer, would you mind doing that?
You already have a fact committee.
I know. But I don't know that precludes her from being on the second committee, does it?
No, I don't.
Not interested. I think you will just.
She's an alternate.
Okay. March? Public comment?
March Herzog, A-Road. Many months ago, Vern Skeedum put in a request to be on the Planning and Zoning Committee. What's the status of his request?
We could, you know, he never talked to me. You know, his name was kicked around, but, you know, he was gonna get with me, and I was talking to Ken to see whether Ken would come back. You know,
You're talking about finance, I'm talking
No,
about
I-
planning and zoning.
Marge, I think.
Oh, no, we're talking finance.
I think he did good for finance.
He told me he wanted planning and zoning.
No, his name was brought to me for finance to take Ken Johnson's place. But,
It was my discussion that initiated the thought of Burns for finance because he has a business background.
Right.
But when I spoke to him, he specifically told me his interest was planning and zoning.
okay.
I would be glad to suggest him to be on planning and zoning if he wants to do it.
Clear it up with him, that was the discussion I had.
I mean, you know, I would like to see a list of some potential people for these things. I know we had talked about him for finance. You and I had talked first, and when Ken first had his problem. And then I was talking to Ken, Ken said, yeah, I think I can do it, then it couldn't, and, you know, and so that's kind of what it was like.
Find out which one he really wants, Marge.
I'm firm with what he told me, he wants planning and zoning.
Why you give both?
He's a full-time attorney.
We need to get some names. This is probably the wrong way to do it, sit up here and start grabbing names.
Right.
So-
What I'll do is I'll double check. I know he has put his name in, and my understanding, like yours, Mayor, was FAAC, but we'll double check.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we'll kind of redouble our efforts again. We'll put a notice in the website. We'll put a notice on town hall, and I don't know if we need to go advertising, but you know.
No, we don't have to do that, but if you get the word out, and then you can come to us and say, okay, these people are available, they would like to do it.
We'll
And
try.
then we can make a choice from that list.
We'll try to do it by next meeting,
Yeah.
if we can.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay.
Mark, I need to
Oh,
ask,
yeah.
go ahead, Mark.
You want me to finish up and then?
Yeah.
Okay. The next item, I'm very happy to report to you that we received 2 letters from the Florida Department of Revenue indicating that our truth in millage certification and our maximum millage levy calculation on the closure were done perfectly, and I will provide some copies of the letters, considering that last year's issue, we had that issue, so we're very happy to see that been cleared up, and we're okay with what we've done. Additionally, we have for council budget books that the town management staff has provided.
Next example, Tom, of government light right there.
Exactly.
In any event, we like to think of it as anything you want to know about the budget is kind of indicated in there, so please feel free to gander at that and let us know if you have any questions or comments.
Glad I brought my pickup truck.
The next item I have is, we have started to talk to each of you, but I wanted to do it collectively. My understanding is a number of you are interested in going to the Tri-Cities Barbecue on December 7th. If that's unanimous across the board, we'll take care of it and RSVP everybody if everybody's looking it up. December 7th, out in the Glades, and that's the annual. It's the Florida League of Cities meeting for December.
Can't wait for the first struggles.
Well, if Brian thinks the hush puppies are good, then they must be good.
So is that unanimous, or is there anybody that's not sure yet at this point?
You want a motion on it?
No, we'll just go ahead and do it, we'll be action right.
I'd like to, in your administrative update, we made a motion in a second, we failed to vote on reestablishing one alternate.
Yeah, we got bogged down a little bit. Okay, so we have a motion to second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right.
All right, we'll do that RSVP. The other item that we started to talk about, as you know, I've been talking to the chamber, they're getting ready to do their Christmas parade. I know there was some ideas about maybe changing the way We participated in that parade, I think, maybe more than, rather than everybody go in one vehicle, some of you thought it might be good if we could maybe kind of go all together collectively in one vehicle. You know, so if that's what you would like me to pursue, I'll talk to Mary Lou Bedford at the chamber and see what they have going and see how we can coordinate that with them.
Yeah, the mayor's outfit that he went to the elementary school in seemed like maybe the thing to start around, or we all dress up the same like that. Maybe we could be Santa's helpers. But one vehicle, I think, was what we talked about as a group.
Okay. I'll pursue that.
I got one comment about that. I disagree, because if we all in one vehicle, we short the kids of candy, because I mean, we're gonna be throwing candy to each other, but no, whatever y'all decide is fine with me. I liked it where we had more candy. Plus, we do need more candy this year.
I'll talk to her and I'll come back with another further report at our next meeting on December 4th. She is looking for an idea as to how many of you are gonna go, because she's trying to, whether it's individual cars or whatever, she's trying to line them up, so. Does anybody know if they're not going to be able to go at this point? That's December 9th, by the way, that's the day that
Is Jeff available with his car truck?
No.
Okay.
Well, one thought we could talk to John Years.
Because he was supposed to do it for the water controllers, we had to back out, because he's doing another parade.
we can do that if that's your desire, we just need to know.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. He said, I'll do it.
And that would be ag, and it would be fitting to the town, so
I'll
we
be up
could,
there for.
I know in the past, we had Klaus with this antique tractor pulling, you know, a trail, and that was kind of cool.
Or we can talk to some folks if we.
Can you
That would be
include,
good.
can they include horses in the parade? Do they allow livestock?
That I don't know.
They do, but then you've got to provide people walking around shoveling.
Well, we've been on top committees in this.
We do enough of that up here, so, you know.
I will check, I'll give you a report on the board as well.
Yeah, okay. But I think everybody that's interested, and if we can get in one float, I think.
Okay, yes, thank you for that. The last item I have is, you did hear some discussion earlier about the outdoor events and special exceptions when we were talking about the LDC. We have met with the community of Hope people, you know, they're getting ready to do their annual, special event that they do at Christmas time. I believe they're gonna start it on the 7th or 8th of December, if I'm not mistaken, based on the day. We met with Billy Langley, Jim Fleischman, and Briggs, and myself. And we just got the packet. We were hoping to be in a position where we could come to you tonight and talk to you about it. We had put a packet together that we received this afternoon. Talked with Mike about it. The question and the problem is that, as you know, the way the ULBC is currently written right now, a special event like that has to be a special exception, which we would never have enough time to go ahead and go through that approval process. I don't know if Billy, is the 4th available? Council talk on the 4th? We need to deal with this on the 4th. Does that give you enough time?
It would be fine, whatever you guys like to do. I mean, I can comment on anything that the council would like me to comment.
The reason I'm asking him that, Your Honor, is that I was going to ask for council approval to let us administratively approve it after our review. However, if we're not compromising their ability, we can bring it to you on the 4th, and then you can see what they're doing with our input and approve it that way. So,
I do want to say that when the issue came up, and I did go through a dialogue with you all to say that if you wanted to do special events through administrative review, we would consider that a zoning in progress, and when we got to doing the ULDCs, we would make the code match that. And I know that was quite some time ago. We haven't gone back to do it, but you had previously given, it was the fire management company to review this type of application rather than required through the four corners of the code, because it was unmanageable to do a special event through that process.
And in the past, I mean, this has been an annual thing, and so I think there's kind of a special consideration when it's been done every year like that, and so it's become tradition. But anyway, Ron?
I asked Mr. Langley to come tonight, but before I express myself, I'm not sure it's allowed to get up here and speak, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
My name is Billy Langley, and I represent Community of Hope, located 14055 Okeechobee Boulevard. And we love our community. We're here talking about this because we really want to do this the right way. submitting the permit, and we're learning the process of how to do it, and I believe I started a little bit late, and I apologize for that. We'll get that right next year. We got together the packet that we could. I do want the council to know, because there have been previous years where traffic has been a real issue. And I wanted to just make everyone aware that we have made serious improvements this year in our plan of handling that traffic. We have requested a parking lot to be used by Palms West Presbyterian Church. It's about 75, 80 parking spots. We're going to park our cast and our hospitality help that really reaches into the 100, 150 people per night. They're going to park in that area, freeing up a lot more parking spots and getting a lot more cars off of Okeechobee into our parking lot, thus creating more traffic flow. As well, we've changed the program just a little bit to where people who are visiting back to Bethlehem should leave the parking lot much sooner than years previous, and thus freeing up more parking spaces, freeing up the traffic gridlock. We're going to have peak times at Back to Bethlehem that we can't really predict and get down to a science necessarily, but I believe we're going to see a major improvement even in those peak times and our traffic issues. That's just been our commitment. That wasn't anything that was requested of us. That's us seeing a problem and trying to solve it. And I know it's probably of interest to the council about this event. So if there's any reservations about that, I would like to share with you a drawn plan that I have about that, and you can review that if you like, of any traffic or safety issues in this event.
Billy, while you're there was one issue when we had our initial meeting, and we advised Billy that we handle, these types of permits via cost recovery. And of course, with Billy, her cost recovery was a little concerned. And I indicated to him that, that I can't waive the cost recovery like that but if, he wanted to address that with council, I think that's your call, whether, you have us look at it without doing cost recovery. So I just wanted to also, before we break, discuss that.
All right, what are we talking cost, how much?
Well, we anticipated that it would be 1,000 to maybe 2,000 tops, maybe less than that. I know it's hard because I'm always guessing based upon the number of hours. So obviously we would try to keep it to a minimum, knowing that it's a charitable event and it's a church,
I would make a recommendation that we would waive that. I don't think it's right to charge religious organizations money to practice their religion. I think that's wrong.
I'd like to see us waive it too, for the simple fact that they invest anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 in this program. And it's back to where I want Loxahatchee to be known as somebody that likes to help the western communities. We got the Veterans Park in Royal Palm Beach that me and my wife enjoy all the time, and for Memorial Service, Veterans Day, Royal Palm Beach does an outstanding job. We've got Wellington that does the Christmas parade. They never cost us anything. And here we have an opportunity because people that come back to Bethlehem come from all over. They come from Wellington, they come from Royal Palm and the Acreage and Loxahatchee Groves. And I don't like to mess with the man upstairs or somebody else. But considering they invest $8,000 to $10,000 in the program themselves for the betterment of the community, then I would like to see us waive the cost also.
Anybody else? And that's my thought. I guess I'm kind of blown away. And we're really trying to get this town simpler. And I don't understand how we have a repeat request coming in, and I would think it would just come, of course, and we say, sure, why not? And how we're generating $2,000 each time. Some of this stuff I just don't understand why we need to review it and go through all this stuff every time. I really don't.
Well, I understand. We've talked about that. The problem is we haven't had the first review that actually took care of this. Because of the fact that it was geared to be a special exception in ULDC. Once we determine the proper review vehicle, we can try to do that so that every year it can be conducted that way. We actually talked about that. That was part of our discussion. But because we've had this problem and we've had all these requirements, fixed to it, it wasn't practical.
Okay. I think it, you know, the ULDCs is a lot of the problem, and all these things that say, well, we're gonna bring it up and do it in the ULDCs, then that's not just as simple as bringing it up for 3 minutes of talk.
And I can assure you that special exception, the special events is gonna be one of the first things that the ULDC review committee sees, because we had that on your agenda, talk about that.
That's been open for a while.
So this type of special event is it happens every year, but we would have to address it every year as a special item? Or is this fee something that we would have once and bless the event?
Here's what I'm thinking, if we come up with
I like that.
if we come up with a proper review vehicle, which is not as onerous as a special exception process, and we review it, and we approve it, and we get maybe a condition that they're gonna do it the same way every year, then we can do it, it's more of a funky than it's not, but as long as we're keeping within the same parameters of that first review.
Well, the thing is, if we're spending money, I mean, I'm concerned that we spend money, we continue to spend money on, because we're in a situation. If we have to spend the money, then I'm not necessarily interested in paying the bill. If there's a way we can agree as a council to say, we can avoid spending the money, therefore we don't have to charge the money, then that's something else. And that's something I would agree with. But now, one other thing I wanted to ask about, because the only thing I heard that was a problem was the traffic, and it was a Friday traffic issue. Now, you're planning to have your issues on Friday, you're gonna have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I presume.
That's correct.
And there's nothing you can do about the Friday issue as far as the time, because we have, rush hour traffic on Okeechobee Boulevard at 6 o'clock at night, going west, is as bad as it gets.
Right.
And if you can change your hours, it would be a whole lot simpler to address that problem. I don't know if you can eliminate Friday night, but I would imagine that there's a later date, later time start would make it a whole lot better. And then implementing your other changes would help. But what I heard you say you were trying to do, I don't think that'll solve the problem if you're talking about rush hour traffic and all. But that was another point. But my point is, if we're spending money and we have no alternative, then I'm reluctant to just say don't charge them. But if we can, as a council, say, this particular case, don't spend the money, do it this way, then I'd be fine.
Well, obviously, the review time that either I or Braden as the staff spends is not gonna be charged. That's not cost recoverable. If we had to bring in anybody due to, again, I haven't seen what Billy submitted yet, so, but if there were, where we needed an engineer or anybody else to look at whatever they were doing, that is where the cost recovery would come in. For example, we talked about the fact that if he was going to have tents and generators and things like that, that's usually something that requires a building inspector.
Let me ask you something. Can we make a motion tonight that we approve this for a minute? And pass it? Okay. And I hope that's what we do right now.
Mike, you shook your head, okay, we can make a motion.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Would you think it's a good idea to make a motion?
I don't get into the wisdom of your actions. I tell you, you can.
We probably don't want to hear.
But I get in trouble if I tell you what's wise or what's not wise.
So let me be
But
very
it would not be inconsistent with what you did with similar, I don't remember the event, I don't know if it was a pumpkin patch, might have been this one a couple years ago that came up, and you did adopt the motion to
Let me
say,
ask you
do it and just work with it, work with town management when you fit to deal with the issues they identify.
You may be willing to do those types of things, but my question then would be different. Do you know of anything that you would be creating a problem for the town by taking in action tonight approving this?
No, because two things. First, you've already discussed that the contact the zoning in progress and given direction to the administration to review the issue of special events and how it applies to the special exception. The second thing is you just did the ULDC committee, and this was one of the items that is on the list that needs to go to them first and will be reviewed. And during the context of their advice and your review, you'll be able to look at how you deal with these annual events or big events or small events and separate it from the one size fits all what you have right now.
Okay, so then we can make a motion tonight, I will do that.
May I make a suggestion?
You make a suggestion of the motion, and I'll make it, how's it?
What I was going to suggest is, and in line with what Mike's been talking about, I would recommend to the town council, if you're inclined to approve it tonight, approve it subject to staff review. And if there is any issues like insurance or anything that we see, so in other words, we'll review it very liberally. But if there's anything we see that we believe has to come back to you for your review and your advice and consent, if you will, then we'll bring that back on the 4th, and it doesn't appear to be a scheduling issue with the church, so everything should work.
So moved.
We have a motion. Second.
Second.
Second. I got one public comment. Howard?
Can a permit be issued for 5 years for a repetitive event like this?
Hey, you're right, you know, if the committee advises and recommends,
No,
and you
you better
guys
give me that
agree, and it goes into code, absolutely, you can provide for an annual event, they could be that type of applicant, one of the options.
Just renewable.
You can separate, you have one-time special events, you have annual events, you have small pumpkin patch things, you have fairs and carnivals and rodeos and all sorts of things. That's why, that's one of the issues that I know management wants to get to you first through this process you've just developed tonight.
And I think where we're headed is to give this authority to management to kind of streamline the process, so we'll start tonight.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passed. All right. My son Matthew will be very happy. If he never found I voted against it. All right, moving to. Yes. She said last. 9A.
I would be happy to do that, Your Honor. Mr. Councilman Gerald wanted to ask me a question, I didn't know if he
Oh,
could.
sorry.
No, I was gonna ask you when we were gonna bring up
Okay.
the
very good.
special event that you covered.
Okay, very good. Okay, 9B, the old business item is the invoices related to Tropical Storm Isaac. You may remember we had this discussion on October 2nd, and I think I indicated to you at that time I didn't really have a problem with the work that was done. The concern was that nobody from the district had ever contacted me and indicated that they were going to request the town approve it until I got Cleek's letter. You did ask me to go forward and double check and find out a little bit more. Cleek and I did correspond with each other and talk about it, and basically he indicated, and I provided his quote under the discussion of the agenda report, that I'll quote him. He said, "It is my understanding this work was considered to be an exigency due to the stream flooding situation at the time. As a result, communication with your office was unfortunately overlooked by Mr. Damaris and the district staff. It is also my understanding that without immediate response taken, the situation would have continued to deteriorate and result in more property damage. The oversight was not intentional." So having said that, I was aware of the fact that the district was going to pay WBI contracting. Mr. Perez confirmed that tonight. I talked to him earlier during the break. So my recommendation to you is by motion to approve the payment of invoices, but it would not be to WBI contracting. It would be to the reimbursing the water control district if you so choose to do so.
All right. Councilman, what are your thoughts?
I think we should reimburse the water control district. And hopefully the next time we have a storm, communication system will be better. But he was out there working with the people, lots of action. And the district basically paid him because we were trying to get everything together before we were paying. So I recommend that we pay the district for the cost.
Was that a motion?
A motion.
Okay. Second? You want a second? Second. Okay, second by Mike. Discussion by council?
I have been opposed to this in the past, however, with the change in management that we have at the water control district, I think point made, I would agree. It's time to change.
My only comment, and I agree with Tom, and I agree with council, but I think Dave is inclined to agree. But I would just like to make it very clear to those that deal with us that this type of situation, he knows who has to make this call. And that we make it clear that the few people that we've been dealing directly with, remind them once again that unless it's contacted by you or your staff, then they should not be working on non-district roads. We had, I think there was a famous quote by one of our council members, that this is the last time we do this without following procedure. So this will be the other last time we do this without following procedure. And I'm ready for talk to the mayor, and wants to be certainly.
We got a motion and a second. Long night. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to 10, new business, A.
Yes, Your Honor, A is the renewal of the hurricane disaster debris removal and monitoring agreements. In all, we have 4 agreements in total with Bergeron, disaster debris monitoring services, O'Brien's, tag grinding, and CNC loader. O'Brien is the monitor, the other 3 are the debris removers. And in all their contracts, they basically allow, there's a clause that allows for an additional 1-year term. Mike and I have worked on this. I did consult with all 4 entities to make sure that they weren't looking for any kind of increase. They all agreed that they're willing to re-up for 1 more year at the same prices. So we're asking you just so we can have these folks in place for the next emergency season, if necessary.
Okay.
Now, give us the 3 the roles they play again.
Yes, tag grinding services, CNC loader, and Bergeron are debris removal, disaster debris removal companies. O'Brien is the monitor of those as it relates to, checking the loads and everything for in conjunction with
And our
our
management company, town management company.
And we're the overall overseer of the whole thing.
I make a motion that we renew these agreements.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Further discussion? Okay, 10A, yes, Frank Sciola.
I would just like to have a thing in there that if any of these companies are bought by other companies or they go out of business, whatever, but mostly they're bought by other companies or absorbed, or the company is sold to another primary, that the town management be known, so be notified, so that we can approve this.
The contract
Okay, probably a good idea. All right, no other discussion?
And then I'm going to amend my motion.
Well, there's contracts, and I'm sure it provides for it, and I did not bring the originals with me, I apologize, but it probably has an assignment clause in there, we'll check the report back.
We'll double check, and I guess if there is one, we can allow it.
I mean,
If you have a change in ownership, that's not really an assignment. I think that's what.
Well, no, but sometimes it's, I don't know what the language is, but and it may be also that it's terminable by convenience as well. I don't have that. We'll take a look at that issue because
We can move forward on the motion as is with this additional.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, motion passes. Moving to B, rescheduling of the January 1st town council meeting.
Yes, Your Honor. January 1st is your next council meeting, is your first council meeting in January. And I provided a couple different scenarios. The one that I recommended was that you meet on January 15th, your second meeting of that month. But there's other options. You could actually move to meet on the 8th and see if you need a second meeting in January. Another option that Mike and I talked about, another option was that possibly we could, right now, it looks like we're going to be meeting on December 4th, and there isn't a second meeting scheduled. We could always have a second meeting on December 18th, so there's not such a wide gap between the next time we meet. So it's really up to you as to how you want to look at it. I just thought I'd point it out and see if we can get an alternate date. Unless you want to meet the 1st, I'll be here in the morning.
I'll be here too, but January 8th,
I think the sugar bowl's on the 1st.
The 8th sounds like a good day as an alternate because you don't have a water control district meeting that week. So it is, there's the first meeting, I believe, the 14th, the second one. Right, so it'd be 14th, so we don't have that issue. Multiple meetings same week, so I would think the 8th would be good, and I don't know if you
It
want to
closes the gap a little bit.
Okay.
if you want to set, what about the second meeting that we don't ever have? What about the second meeting in January? Probably end up happening.
Well, it's the 15th, so you're not talking going back to back, so.
So you'd be the 22nd, we do that.
Good, or you
Well,
can
then
cancel.
we still got back to back.
You have 5 Tuesdays in January.
I will be not available on the second and fourth Tuesdays, since I'm city attorney. They meet, so I mean, I could get another attorney in the office on the 8th. Either the 8th or the 22nd.
Just go with the 15th and we'll go.
So the 15th, you're all right?
Well, that's your regular meeting night.
Okay, 15th.
Then, if you need.
Everybody all right with that?
The
15th,
only concern is if we need a second meeting, we don't have a second meeting.
They got 5
and there's no problem with the distance between the two.
Well, here's the thing, you can
Well, if we
decide.
need a second meeting, we're gonna have it on the 15th. We're just missing the first meeting, so.
You
You
have
have it that way.
You have your next meeting on
That's not
December 4th. You can determine on the 4th,
There's the
if you
30th.
want it, if you're concerned about the gap from the 4th to the 15th of January, you can decide to have another meeting on December 18th.
I mean, I'm not concerned about the gap, but
Okay.
I'm just thinking legally.
The 5th Tuesday.
Oh.
No.
Okay, that's what we're talking.
January 15th. So the meeting from the 1st is canceled. And we're just going to have our regular second meeting on the 15th.
Bring our sleeping bag.
Almost done. And this one was done. Okay, so consensus, you all right with that? All right, moving to C. Roadway issue.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Mr. Mayor, members of the town council, on October 16th, there was a joint workshop with the Water Control District Board of Supervisors. At that meeting, there was a consensus to start the process of transitioning whatever rights the district has to the public roads to the town. There were other consensus, but the one item of direction, the consensus to bring back for direction was an appropriate motion to start the process for the roads that already are treated surface with open graded emulsified mix or OJEM. The roads that were discussed were the 4 roads that were recently part of the special act that was adopted in 2011, which was the recent OJEM work on A Road, C Road South, C Road North, and D Road. And then also Marcella and Compton were both specifically named at that time. In reviewing the issue with Water Control District Council, the concept of Bryan Road also came up, because that was a road that was OJEM'd apparently, from what I understand, may have been by the county years ago. So there may not be any water control district, they may not have any rights to that road, but the thought process was to put that on the list to authorize us to confirm that along with the other roads that have the OJEM. So the motion that was, that's there was reviewed with council for the district, so they would provide a similar motion at their next available meeting to their district staff and council to work with us on this transition. So the motion as proposed is a motion to assign, transfer, or otherwise convey as necessary district rights to certain roads to the town, and to authorize town administration and town attorney to coordinate and develop the plan of action necessary to accomplish such and report back to the town council for the following roads: North Lee Road, North C Road, South C Road, North D Road, Upper North Road, F Road, Marcellus Boulevard, Compton Road, and Bryan Road.
All right. Do you need that in the form of a motion?
Well, that's the motion.
That's the motion. Okay. Brian makes the motion, second.
Second.
Second by Ron. Discussion?
Real quickly, it's my understanding, and I'm not an expert on this, but I understand that there were certain funds that were borrowed and are retained by the water district currently for maintenance or resurfacing or whatever. I would think that if we're going to be taking responsibility for this, that those trust funds as well should come to us, since the money was borrowed and it's going to have to be repaid.
Well,
It should be maintained by us for that purpose.
the reason that the motion is structured like it is that there's going to be a lot of issues with these funds.
I understand that. That's
So
why
it was to develop a plan of action. Here's the issues we've identified, and here's the answers we need. You know, it's not going to be come back on January 15th and say, here are the roads. There's a lot of work that needs to be done even to develop the plan to transition. And that's one of the debt, the responsibility for that, is the application to these roads. as well as the nature of the rights and what rights they have, if any, to some of these roads. But we need direction before we start undertaking that work to do that work.
Ron?
Mike, a clarification on page 169 of 177. You've got the C Road south, but you've got the direction approximately 1/4 mile east direction from A Road. That should be C Road instead of A Road. You know what I mean? Where it says A Road.
Oh, okay, in the second bullet point, there's a
Right.
typo, it should be, okay,
C
sorry,
Road.
sorry about that, I guys caught me, got me pasted.
The other thing is, at the workshop, we kind of narrowed it down that we were going to jump on the roads that have been open or paved. If this has anything to do with state legislature, we need to cut the costs down, and we need to go to state legislature wanting ownership of all the roads. Because we've been through that. I went to Tallahassee with John Ryan. They were paid because of respective easement. In other words, the roads that they have been, the part they've been graded is what we put the ozone down on. However, I know we're gonna want easement right-of-ways and stuff like that. You know, we talked about collecting canal as far as coming up with a game plan and where we get the people's approval. But what I'm getting at is, let's don't make a trip to Tallahassee just to concentrate on getting ownerships for these paved roads. Let's go to Tallahassee and get ownership for all the roads, if that's possible.
Well, that's something we can look at, okay, yeah, we can look at that. This was specific with interaction with the district, but yeah.
Okay, anything else on that? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, moving to, now, is Compton Road issue a separate issue?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Virginia. Yeah, come on up. I'm sitting right in front of you.
Yes, sir. Turn me to Virginia Standish, 15410 North Road. And I anticipated that it would make more sense to go after all the roads, so I'd like to make my comment as regarding the issues going on in general. This specifically, and this involves comments regarding what's going on with the joint workshop too, so I'm just going to do it all here. I haven't done it at the district yet, I will. This refers to 2011-257, which names specific roads. In here, though, you refer to the entire Upper North Road, and I see Collecting Canal is not on here. I'm just pointing it out that you have referred to Upper North Road. That gives me the opportunity to make the example that you really need to, as you're going through your due diligence, you need to make sure what district information is available. You need to look at the surveys on North Road specifically. Concerned you may not find a survey for North Road. In regard, the last survey I believe that was done was when the canals, there was a huge job, and that changes where things are on the road. The district employees, through no mismanagement on their part, have simply been instructed to keep grading up to fences. They don't know where these fences are. They don't know how far in on somebody's property they are. You made the statement the roads were ozone to where they're being graded. That was correct, but what is now happening, and you have Florida Statute 95.361 was consistently referred to at your joint workshop meeting. And that gives you rights to take road and easement that have been maintained over a consistent period of time. Now, it sounds like you're trying to do this, taking the roads soon. So I need to point out to you that what is going on is that additional property is being graded now. This is not property that was maintained over a previous amount of time, and I will bring this up to the district, but more grading is going on, more of people's property are being taken. Landowners already gave up easement, like I live on North Road. I know we gave up easement on North Road for right of way. I know my road has been owned. Now I see more of my property being taken up to my fence. they are probably doing what's correct on my property.
How are they
They're
grading?
coming along and grading.
How
They're
are they
actually,
grading on the ocean?
well, they're actually coming in, what's happening is they're doing what's called hedging, which the hedging, when the quote comes up for hedging, they need to use proper equipment for hedging. Right now, they're just taking the blade that they have that's very dull, and they come in, but they also come in and they're, just take a little bit off the road. They come in, they're not grading the ocean, they're just coming in and taking a little bit off dirt, off of some of the sides, the greenery. That's just happening on the dirt roads, they're just taking a lot more. So there's more being taken off there. But basically, what this gets down to is what I'd like to know, besides when you're going to have a correct survey of the roads after that last canal project was done. The bottom line question is, when the town owns a road, they pay for everything. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that, okay, the landowners get the road, OGM, they get the bill. And then the town's going to get the road for free. I have not, I'm going to jump to my question.
Let me jump in there, because I talked with town manager, and at our workshop, we discussed this, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when the town assumes ownership of these paved roads, I think one thing that we have to do is pay the debt assessment, and that's what I was told. So that means that
That's
you
where there's
won't
some
be paying for the
confusion.
road.
Well, no, and that's where there's some confusion among the public. So, and we're asking for clarification as you go through this workshop on the roads and as you go through this due diligence. The question is, the people who are being charged on their tax bills now, those roads are going to be turned over to the town. They want to know, well, am I going to get reimbursed for what I paid on my tax bill? Or are you just going to pay the debt?
Neither one. I don't think there's an expectation on the part of anybody that the town's going to take over the debt for the ocean roads and pay it.
Okay, okay, I understand. So basically what you're saying, most towns who have roads, they maintain and they pay for everything. So just so I understand, what's happening is here is that people have their roads OGM, they pay the tax bill, and then the town's going to get the roads and the easements and nothing, no compensation to the landowner.
There'd be
No, yes.
no
decisions
compensation. The land was already done through the special act, so nothing is going to happen that hasn't already occurred. What's going to happen is the responsibility for maintenance is going to fall to the town, and the town will take the responsibility rather than the water management district. That's really all it is. The same arrangement relative to the payment for the roads by the people that requested them in the first place will continue.
Okay,
That's
let me
my
ask-
understanding unless something changes.
Let me ask you this, in 10 years after everyone's paid off their debts for the OGM and something else has to be done on the road, who pays for that?
I would
The town?
personally believe, and personally I would say it should be the town, but that actual decision has not been made by us, so I cannot say definitively
Well,
what
once
that
it's
decision
turned over
is.
to the town, then
If I may, Mark, just to opine on Councilman Gerald's statement. Councilman Gerald was referring to the fact that you may remember earlier in the budget process here that this year the town council had floated the idea of paying for the $360,000 to the district for the purposes of satisfying the debt as it related to the ocean project. However, that was turned down by the district, and the town council opted in another direction, and that was the case. Now, what Councilman Gerald is referring to, I think the town attorney's comments are on point. Now that's open for our review, and then we're going to work together to see just how that's going to be addressed when the town does take over these roads. So at this point in time, I think it's open-ended, we don't know.
So then the alternative side of this discussion then is that what has basically been said is that the town does not want the roads until the landowners have paid for OGM. Just want to make sure that that's what we're hearing. The town does not want.
What you're saying is factually correct.
Right.
That is correct.
So that's what we just want to understand.
The town council has never made a decision to OGM any road other than North Road or Collecting Canal.
Right.
Any other decisions made relative to OGM have been either citizen initiated or have been those which were otherwise is initiated through the county. So it's not like the town is actively doing anything other than assuming from the water district maintenance responsibilities for this road in the goal of bringing about a unified road system under one roof.
Right, and again, so to continue the discussion, based on what we heard at the workshop, you're going for a unified system, but what we heard at the workshop was the roads will not be turned over to the town unless they're OGM. If we don't vote to have them OGM, then that road stays with the district. But
That is sort of how it was left,
Right.
though I don't know that that's exactly how everybody thought would be best.
Tom is speaking for himself, okay? I, as a council member, I want ownership to all the roads and lots of Hatchie, because we are gonna have to go to state legislature, turned over to the town. As in the past, I'll continue to do it in the future, except I have more support of the residents, okay? I try to get the town council to pay the loan assessment, debt assessment for the ocean that has already been done. So we could talk all night, but trust me.
we just want to understand it because we have a vote.
But as far as I'm concerned, eventually, if the town can afford it, we're not gonna pay for a new road. We paid for North Road and Collecting Canal because we tried to cut the costs down, and I couldn't get the other council members to agree to pay for the other roads. So I personally, my goal is that the town, if we can afford it, we take over the payments to the bank, and we pay for all roads so that it is equal to everybody. And because when people have to vote a referendum to pay for their own road, first of all, it's hard for them to get it approved, and it's going to get harder because some people are no longer using their roads anymore. They're using the paved roads that other people are paying for. So.
And my final point in regard to your roads and your workshop, I also did not hear a definition for the term public, and I'd like to remind you in 1918, public roads and highways were primarily dominated by horses, cattle, farm, and canal equipment, and I believe that horses and cattle still have the right of way in the state. Just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. All right. Moving to 10D.
John, 10D is Compton Road. It was placed on, originally what I was going to do is I was going to give you an update in my management report, but I had a request from several citizens, Mr. Joe Hosford, to have this placed on the agenda. So I listed it as an agenda item. I'd still like to be able to give you a quick report though, because a lot has transpired. We do have a slideshow with a lot of photographs of the situation, but let me just give you some initial comments first. You may remember, this came up at your October 2nd meeting. I was quite concerned because of not having any previous knowledge about this, and we were talking about taking some actions, and it sounded like it was a very dire situation when I was concerned about possible procurement violations and things like that, so we wanted to make sure that we addressed this properly. I was not able to get out to Compton Road the next day, but I had it scheduled to get out on the morning of the 4th. And I did receive a call from Councilman Golsonay, who was going out there and asked if we could go together, and I said, sure, so let's do it. So we both went out. We actually went the entire length of Compton Road, which I would tell you is 38,740 linear feet, or roughly almost 3/4 of a mile, 0.73 hundredths of a mile. So, excuse me.
800.
I'm sorry.
38,000.
Linear feet. I'm sorry, what did I say?
3,800. You said 38,000. That would be.
Yeah, 38 miles. 3 miles. Sorry. So we went ahead and we inspected the road from east all the way to west. And, we did find, first of all, the entire ditch area is loaded with all types of vegetation. It varies, and as she's scrolling through the photos, you'll see she's going to start in a second. That's starting at the very east. You can see there's a little bit of water in there, not a lot. I can tell you I was out there checking it again today, and that is down to a more defined, maybe half that water is gone. Basically, we went all the way to the west, and you can start scrolling on so you can see. We also took photos of every property along Compton as well. We got to the west part of the culvert, and actually Councilman Golsonay jumped into the water, actually with his own hands cleared away some dirt and some debris that was there. And believe it or not, that water started to flow. And we watched it, it flowed right through the culvert into the canal. At the time, it was probably 6 to 8 inches deep. I have gone out there, it's bone dry now. Now, obviously, there probably are some issues relative to some standing water in the area, but you could also say that that could be the water table. I mean, there could be a number of factors. There may still be some issues with the culverts, that's a possibility. But it would seem to me the number of properties did not have the water that was reported to us at that point in time. Now, maybe they did have some water, you know, right around the time, August 25th, and when Tropical Storm Isaac occurred. But Councilman Bolsonet or I did not see any large standing water in any of the properties. As you go into the photos, you will see certain parts. You see some water like that. Again, that could be ground table in a ditch. Don't know at this point. Don't know how much the vegetation is impeding any flow. That's a possibility. But the bottom line was there was some direction to us to try to get something moving, and we did get it moving, and we resolved the one end. I mean, it's going right now. There's not a problem. I believe the issue relative is, you know, if the residents are requesting the town to take that vegetation out, that's certainly a project we could put on our list of projects. Now, you may remember I also indicated at that time that at that point the right-of-way was deeded to the water district, not the town. I mean, it was reported to you at that time that it was the town's responsibility, and it wasn't. But that's not trying to duck that. And what we're doing today, that's going to resolve that. But basically, you know, there's an example of property. I'm trying to run through this quickly instead of trying to narrate each slide, as you can see. But you know, most of the properties were in that kind of condition. So you know, we were kind of, Councilman Bolsonet and I were kind of surprised, and we think the required action is going to be, yes, that vegetation needs to get out of there. But again, you're talking almost 3/4 of a mile of roadway, so that's probably going to be a very expensive project, something that we're going to have to plan for. I think we should do it. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I don't think it's an imminent danger or something that the town needs to jump in and do right at this moment. I think it's something we could plan for within the course of time. Councilman Bolsonet, I'm sorry I used your name as we were both out there. Oh, I would also add, by the way, that I was out there again with Pearl Underwood after Councilman Bolsonet. And then the town attorney was here for our meeting, so I decided to take the town attorney out there, and he got to see it firsthand. along with Councilman Bolsonet and Pearl Underwood. So we were doing a lot of work trying to make sure, you know, as well as get these photos so you can see the actual conditions. And now, I'm sorry, Councilman Bolsonet, I used your name, so is there anything you want to say or add? Please feel free.
Okay, so your recommendation right now is not to do anything right now?
Put it on the list, we'll look at it, we'll try to work on it in the near future.
Yes.
I think at the last time we talked about this, John Choquette said a couple pretty prescient things about this. One is the need to have some elevations so that we can have some intelligent data to work with. Because what we have at both ends is essentially culverts that sit only a few inches above the regular water table in either the G or the F canals. So you can't lower those culverts because then you would have the water come back in from the other side. Further, the bottom of the ditch isn't deep enough, so you have to lower the ditch. As you lower the ditch, we're going to cut into the groundwater table. There will be water in the canal forever because there's water in the other canals. So we don't really know what's going on, but as you look at it, it almost appears to be that each end is higher than the center. And because the center is lower than the ends, you can't drain out either end. And you have a few people who happen to have houses that are maybe in historic wetland areas. There's cypress trees in certain parts of the street, and there's low areas. And I think that part of what we have here is not the greatest engineering in the first place when it was done. And we could also, I've heard that there may be one or two of the culverts that's collapsed, and there's certainly many places where it's just clogged with cattails or whatever. You know, it's funny, anybody who cleared their their area out now has a big cattail mess. And everybody who didn't clear their area out has a pepper, et cetera, mess. But it's your choice. You'll have clear water if you didn't clear out the peppers and you have a lot of trees. But as soon as you take out the trees, then everybody's got vegetation that just clogs everything. So the street's a mess. You know, there's no doubt, as Mark said. But as Ron said at this last meeting, we don't want to create all these land development jobs, all these land clearing jobs. And that's a land clearing job. You know, John looked at it. It's a lot of big material that needs to be removed, as well as some dredging, but some survey. So it's not as easy as let's just go snap our fingers and fix it.
You know, Mr. Mayor, when we had that discussion, it was because of the appearance of an emergency, and we basically were falling under an emergency situation. We did not want to spend money at that meeting to clear canals or drainage ditches out. We were trying to make sure that they drained whatever water was there. Now, the next day, and I thank Tom for saving us $20,000 to $30,000 by just using his hand cleaning tool he brought along with him, that this was to drain the water that the description we had was severe. And we acted on that. So if it's drained, and it looks like it's certainly a whole lot better than what we saw in some pictures, and it was described to us, and then we've accomplished the time. Mark and Tom and we even have Mike's help accomplish what we need to do, get the water down. I don't see this as a project that we go back and do that fits in the same domain as others where you don't have access to your home. And that's what we had, those projects that we had in the original list, was you couldn't get, you know, the mail or garbage trucks or that type of service. We couldn't get in there. We had to cut stuff back. This is probably in a ditch, and that's a different, not that we shouldn't look at it, but it's a different problem. It's certainly not an emergency, and if we had been seeing these pictures that night that this came up, we would not have voted to have any money appropriated or attempt to fix the problem at that kind of cost. I mean, I wouldn't. So it's a different problem than what we had then. And it's solved as far as I'm concerned without spending money.
Okay, Ron?
When the people left here that night, John Choquette was gonna go over there and tell us about the elevation and stuff. He specifically said he would have to do that before he could give us any type of idea of the cost. Tom said that the center is higher than the two ends. Well, if the center's higher than the two ends, okay, the ends are higher than the center, okay, well, no matter what, that ditch will flow into the Folsom Canal and the F Road Canal. Now, it may hold water, but they had a problem with flooding, okay. Now, it's obvious that we spoke as a council that we were going to try and solve some of the problems that this community has. One of the major problems they have is drainage ditches that have never been maintained. Now, the Water Control District always used the excuse, your drainage ditch is not our problem. You have to get your water to our canal. Well, using 161st for an example, along with Compton Road, you've got a lot of residents on Compton Road, okay? And we've agreed that in order to keep our paved roads decent from collapsing, we can justify cleaning out drainage ditches. Okay, I'm not saying it's an emergency, we have to do it right now. But when the rains come and the hurricane season starts next year, they'll have a problem holding water, holding mosquitoes, and flooding. Okay, now the question is, we've got money in this town. Are we going to try and improve the drainage? The post office is a fine example. How many times are we going to let the post office flood before? Now I think we're headed in the right direction because we are starting to bring an engineer aboard. And we have to have an engineer to tell us, hey, if you want to drain from this point to that point, here's what you've got to do. And we'll decide on it as a town council if we want to spend the money. Now, I would hope at least that we would let Choquette follow through with what he led the people to believe he was going to do. Find out the elevation and stuff for that drainage ditch. Give us some type of estimate of what it would cost to clean that drainage ditch out. Okay, we did the drainage ditch on 22nd Road north off C Road. We did an outstanding job. The town paid for it to a certain point, but we don't care about maintaining it anymore. So now, I mean, come on, if we're interested in helping the community, we've got to get them better drainage and stuff out here. The Water Control District is not gonna do it. They've done it to the best of their capabilities by the 9-year canal maintenance plan. But when you're talking about a 3/4 mile of a road with numerous residents on it paying taxes and stuff, I would think that we could justify cleaning out drainage ditches and trying to keep this place from flooding. So I would at least think that we could come up with a cost. If we come up with a cost from a professional, then maybe we can work something out with the residents. Maybe we could go 50-50. I'm for one that believes that sometimes the residents are gonna have to participate. They're gonna have to show, because we do things for people in Loxahatchee, and it bothers me that when we pave the roads and stuff, that people blow their sidewalks off, but do they clean up the trash and stuff that falls on the road? Do they go out and do their little section in front of the house? Most people don't, you know. A lot of people here, they take things for granted. We do something, we spend thousands of dollars for them, and then they don't want to help us maintain the situation. But I think we need to have some kind of idea what the problem is. It's not holding water now, and our rain is fixing to stop. Okay, and as far as draining into the F Road or Folsom Canal, if we drop our canals down to no water in the canal, trust me, it will keep those people from flooding. So, and that's all I'm saying. Let's get an estimate, and if we think it's outrageous, let's see if we can work with the people to see if we can take care of the problem.
Okay. Any other comments by Councilman Brian?
I remember last time they came, basically, I still have the same position on, you know, grant us the maintenance easement for that drainage swale. Town will take care of it, because it'll fall within keeping, the maintenance of the road. We need drainage for the road, so part of it would be maintaining that drainage swale. And from there, we'll just take care of it from there. I don't want to hear these folks coming in because they're flooded, because I don't want it to happen again. So, you know, before the next rainy season, let's get it done. So.
Well, one of the things that we said, it sounds like there'd been a plug in the drain and we fixed it. They wouldn't have been drained, they wouldn't have been flooded the way they were to the degree they were. They may have been flooded just like I was flooded, and unfortunately just like our mayor was flooded. We did not escape that. With all the maintenance that we've done, the drainage ditches, when everything around the drainage ditches and our canals was higher than the canals, that wouldn't have changed anything. But what we did find that there was a stopped up drain, and we fixed them. So their flooding would have happened, hopefully not to the same degree. The thing that I would like to see in the future, and along this line, as far as drainage, is that the Water Control District ensures that drains into their canal are clear. That they watch for that, they check on that. And the drainage path to the drain into their canal and beyond is something that the town looks at and sees what we can do. But that particular drain, from what I understand, was clogged up. Had there been a maintenance routine that said, we will check to see if the drains are clear. Who pays for repairing or a collapsed drain, that's another whole story. But you just have a routine that says, you know, the town would ask the maintenance water control district, because we're moving in the direction of just drainage maintenance, that they look at all those drains that feed into their canals and report that they're not working, they're clogged, or something. That happened before, we had that going on before the rainy season. That, I think, in this particular case, sounds to me like we would have avoided a lot of the flooding that they incurred. Certainly, what we were hearing was it lasted a lot longer than most of what we were seeing. And again, the answer was one drain, one clogged drain, from what I understand. So if we had a routine, if we worked with the Water Control District, said, and an agreement that said, you up to this point, you know, to the edge of your road, anything goes under, you make sure it's working. Not that you have to fix it, just tell us it's working or not. And if you find it needs to be unclogged, maybe that's something that they would do, but they won't necessarily replace it, repair it, because we know that usually was the cost of the resident put in.
I think it's important that we get the RFP for services so that we have somebody available to do the work. If we had somebody available to work, to do the work is really going to be a question of prioritizing, which we've discussed before. We've discussed what the priorities ought to be, what the criteria ought to be. It's really a question now of management getting on it and getting it done, because, you know, I think we've laid out what we need to do this. Now, one thing Ryan brought up that was important is turning over to the town the actual easement so that it is something that we can work on, because we can't work on private property with public funds. Now, this is going to be accomplished through the turnover from the district, because I believe that on Compton Road, 30 feet on either the north or south side of each person's property, you create a total 60-foot wide easements there. So we, assuming that it was all put where it was supposed to be, we are going to have that easement, and we can do that without any of these issues, and we can even spend gas tax money on it, because drainage is an acceptable gas tax expenditure. So really, I think it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's getting the people to do the work and then just getting on it. And really, this upcoming year, I really hope that we can get an actual public works department functioning. Okay, because besides these folks' problems, there's other problems. I mean, I have a road that I drive down a lot just to go down here to the diner. And when I do, I have Brazilian peppers slapping on my truck for 2 miles down the road. And we call that a town road. So there's a lot of things that need to be done. We just need to get on them. And, you know, enough said.
Okay. Joe Osford and then Craig Shalley.
First of all, Tom, thank you for going by there. Like we said, I came out here. The issue is not the end of the canal, but you guys, I like you took 17 pictures of one house. It doesn't cut it there. We did ask you, we told you we came in 6 weeks after the storm. There's people who were devastated. We were just flooded. It's not our first day out. We've been here 25 years. Murphy's been there. The old Compton house has been there from day one when we put dirt on the road. We know how the drainage is supposed to go. We live there. You know how it's supposed to be. When you went down, you knew where there was the big Smurfs outside it. That's the 3 houses on both sides, 6. Yeah. John came out there, he took a probe, I went with him, he poked a couple of culverts, and yes, he saw all the culverts, he had one that was an issue. That's why we addressed, as the council stated last time, we can't do anything, John was worried about it without permission. Everybody from A to B had no problem. The people in the corner, nobody had a problem at that time. That was 6 weeks after the storm. If you want me to bring in some photos, 5 days we didn't get mail. 5 weeks we couldn't go to yard. That's 6 houses. It's only 6 houses, we realize that. The ends were drained. Yes. The F road, the one you're talking about, F road, you saw that culvert out to Warren. That got tore up with you guys trying to help get that canal cleaned out. That was your contractor, asked for John and Cleveland. You guys tore up the culvert. That has been repaired. We're not worried about that. It's the dry season. All we're saying is now we're taking a step forward, so you're going to look into the roads and possibly by next rainy season. Nothing has to be done now. When we needed it done back then, we couldn't get it done. We understand that. Why spend money on that? It went away. The water will always go away. We know that. But you guys came down yesterday, you drove down the road. The pond's down 2 feet. Yes, it's dry now. Let's not think that we got some momos living on the street. 5 days, no mail. 10 minutes for the pickup truck to get to the end of the road with a 4-wheel drive truck. That went on for 3 weeks before the water drained. Murphy has the pictures. There's plenty of photos which you did not want to see last time we were here. Brenda brought the photos of what it looked like 5 to 10 days. We're okay with 5 or 10 days. We're in the middle of the road, we understand that. But when it goes 5 weeks, all we're saying is, by our bylaws, we have to get code enforcement, correct me if I'm wrong, to assess Murphy to clean his canal so the people on the south side can drain. He's impeding my progress to the Edward Canal. Is that not true? If someone's impeding your progress on your drainage.
You would have to make a complaint.
And why would you do it with your neighbors? Last time you were told, be neighborly. And first of all, I'm not going to tell Murphy to clean his canal. He's done it many times. Next door, Owen too. The pipes all the way down with John, both ends were sufficient. The end canals, are they dirty? Yes, they saw the trees. Yeah, you know. The people don't take care of them, and you can't go knock on someone's door and say, clean your ditch. As you guys saw yesterday, the guy right in the middle, he's been cleaning his for 3 weeks. Old guy in the corner gets it every summer, cleans his up, and the stuff goes right back. It's just a matter of the people stuck in the middle. And like I said, we have bigger issues. Take care of those. The people in the middle, after 25 years, we don't drain anymore. And we've seen them restore. We've all lived through them. you know what, 2 or 3 days you get water. My son came in from Marines, he was in 20 ponds. He called to Dad. I said, Brad, what do you want me to come down to? Dad, I want to see freaking rain, haven't seen it in a year. It's been in the desert. He got home Friday before Isaac. So he was out swimming in a pond. So he was happy. He was so happy. He went back to the desert. He doesn't want to see the storm. That's one thing he asked for. I just want to see a rainstorm. And I can't understand people, why would you want to see a rain? Being in the desert for a year, they actually go out at 3 in the morning if it rains. That base goes outside just to play the rain. There it is. But if you look into it, I mean, it sounds like this issue comes forward where they do the roads. We have to the next rainy season, and that was an unusual storm. But as you saw right in the middle there, that's the worst area. The ends, like I said, if you have a way to tell somebody to go clean out their ditch and spend that kind of money, I wish you would tell them, because it's hard. You can't tell your neighbor, get a backhoe. And you saw, John's right, they're single ponds, 12 feet tall now. It's not just John wanting to grade it. John would do that for free for us if it was just a matter of the grade off. It's cutting, removing, everything else. So, but thank you both for going out there and looking at it.
Okay. Thank you, Frank.
Frank Chinola, as you all know, that's one of the places we were at during the rain as it was coming down on Saturday and Sunday. And Johnny Choquette was there with me while we were digging out the culvert on F Road. F Road culvert was totally blocked up. We cleaned out the west side, the water flowed. It flowed for about 30 minutes, then it stopped back up. We went back and cleaned it out again, and we did both sides. That culvert, when George went in there, is collapsed underneath that road. That's why the water, one of the reasons why the water is draining from that end. There is a culvert that's halfway down the road that is totally collapsed, full of dirt. That's why the water is not draining from the middle of the road. And also in the middle of the road at the second island, that's a historically low area. If you look at the maps back there, you can see that there is actually an old cypress pond that was in there. So that, but you can see at the road is low when you go through there. So from worst case scenario, culvert pipe under F Road needs to be replaced. The other culvert pipe that's totally collapsed that Johnny Choquette found, the canal would need to be cleared out. You know, pretty much that's it. Everything else is working fine through there. There was a lot of water there, and I was out there every other day. And yes, people were flooded. The canals were down, it's just the water wasn't really going anywhere, had no place to go, it kept getting blocked up. So that's the problems that we have on that road. And by going ahead and fixing the culvert pipe on F Road, that's going to solve the problem on that end of it. And by doing that culvert underneath the one driveway, that's going to solve another big problem. And cleaning it out will solve the rest of the problem. So there's numerous problems on that section. And that's not indicative of other side roads that have the same problems, where you have one culvert that's blocked, and that really messes it up for most everybody else because the water has no place to go. And yes, elevations need to be shot out there. You know, when the canal was dug, it was just dug like everything else was dug out there. Somebody brought in a backhoe and all that, and went ahead and did the roads. We don't know how things work out here. You know, I doubt if many roads or any canals were engineered. But now, you know, we have the chance to do something. It is dry season, and there are certain areas that we can address, and maybe it might be, you know, this year addressing the culvert part of it. When more money comes available, addressing the, cleaning out of the canal. But at least we're doing something so that the water can go and move at least to the district canals, because that was our whole thing, trying to get the water out no matter what. In fact, we found on Bryan Road a culvert that was totally blocked up. We just pulled it out because it went to nowhere. It was an old right-of-way that was fenced off, and there was no gate there. We pulled it out, and the water moved, and helped bring those people there. So, addressing the culverts is a primary thing that's getting the water flowing, and then we can move at doing the trees next.
Thank you, Frank. All right, anything else on the council? Okay. All right, moving to closing comments, public comments. I have something from Linda Isaacs, and she wants it to be read in the record. Please revisit some ordinance relating to vegetative growth on the street. Owners being billed 30 days, okay, about not the town paying, or I propose such an ordinance, 30 day, I don't know what to say. But anyway, talking about vegetative on Marcella.
Yeah, if I'm connecting the right lady, I think she was complaining about a couple of properties where they weren't maintaining that.
Could be. That's what it is, and Virginia Standish, and then Larry Lefkowitz.
Virginia Standish, 15410 North Road. This month I went to a presentation by Land Design South at the Palm Beach County Convention Center, and I wanted to share some points with you. I was speaking to one of the principals, I do not recall her name, she has presented here, and we were discussing how they had so many landscape architects, and my question was, if you have so many landscape architects, why are some of your projects so limited with landscape material? And she said, sometimes we're limited by the town. And she knew where I was from, and she said, there's so much that can be done out there, and she said, just don't limit us in agriculture. I'm just sharing that with you, okay? It's just, she had a good point, that sometimes you can only put up your 2 ponds and do this and that. Just making a comment. I had some other comments about the project, but the other thing that was very interesting was Mr. Bentz's comments himself, and that he encourages developers to avoid paying for roads as much as possible. And I know you have an agreement with them to do roads for you on some projects. I just encourage you to watch Mr. Betts closely with Land Design South. And then the other comment was his closing comments regarding Palm Beach County Commissioners. He's very happy to see Mrs. Marcus gone because she was for the environment and the community. Now that they have Mr. Calavaleche, I believe, in place, which they strongly supported, he's more pro-business. I went through another list of commissioners, and at the end they put up Jesse Santa Maria, and they said, well, what can you say when you put a developer in place, but he'll be gone in 2 years? Bottom line, he said he is going to be approaching the Palm Beach County Commission for increased development throughout and density throughout Palm Beach County. I know I've grown up here, just like Ms. Snowball, she experienced growth. I don't think this town has to end up with a Maroney Ford on every corner. I think the town council has, what I'm trying to say is you have the power to make sure any project looks good in this town, and we don't have to be wall-to-wall upfront cement. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia.
A comment about the landscape. As someone who's been in the landscape business for over 20 years, I've found that landscape is generally limited by the pocketbook of the developer, and that's the only limiting factor I've ever seen. I've never heard of any
Yes, I
government
just wanted to
agency
share that with you.
trying
That's
to limit landscaping. In fact, with the college, I tried to get more landscaping, and we know where that goes.
Well, we did as a college for that time. We talked a lot about landscaping. We talked a lot about buffer on southern and north. So I'm not familiar with the council on any project, any proposal. Talking about limiting.
No, we haven't.
We have not.
We've only asked for more landscaping.
Oh, I don't think they were referring to you specifically. I'm just sharing that comment so you know.
I'd love to be the exception to this rule.
Is Larry Lefkowitz still here?
Put in the contract. Virginia, one comment. That's one reason why we supported the college on 75 acres. It does stop Mr. Benson and the rest of them developing wall to wall.
They're not going to.
No.
Yeah. Okay. We've got town attorney, Mike, anything?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I do have an item that has been agendized on October 2nd. The council authorized me to prepare a request to the Florida Attorney General on the interpretation of a change in section 604.50 dealing with non-residential farm buildings, farm fences, and farm signs. Since that time, I have prepared the request, which I want to present to the town council since I submitted it on your behalf. I have been in contact with an attorney for the Department of Agriculture. They are aware that we are submitting it. They did not provide me with any information or authority that they wish for me to include, but I would expect that they will be in contact with the Attorney General, because I did advise them that I would share a copy of the one that was approved by council at the time it's submitted. I would also probably like to provide one to the Department of whatever Economic Opportunity, which deals with land development regs, and also because this was an outgrowth of a meeting with Palm Beach County, to the Palm Beach County Attorney's Office, so they're aware that the request is out there. But the bottom line is, this is the request. In order to enable the request, if there's some issue that you want them to resolve, you need to present them with what I intend to be an objective review of the concerns, citing the law, how the law changed, some authority, and asking for them to render an opinion to the town. And it's here for your review and authorization to forward to the Florida Attorney General.
Okay. Yeah, like complimenting you, Mike, I think it's very broad and very well thought out. I don't see anything to add to it myself. I'm happy with it.
Mike, I got a question for you.
Okay.
And I'm trying to direct you to the, in your letter, you say section 604.50 Florida statute now reads. If you go down into that paragraph, you reference section or statute 553.73 10C.
Well, that's in the statute itself.
I tried to find 10C and I found 8C. I'm wondering if maybe it's 8. It's only if you would check.
I will verify that. That was a direct cut and paste, so I wouldn't change any language. It wasn't the intent to paraphrase or get in trouble, but I'll verify that site.
Okay, because it's kind of difficult going through what you did, although I agree with Tom. And check on what you're referring to, because as it with anything with statute, you know, one statute refers to 12 others, and these refer, I mean, it's just like a pyramid, you know, where you got 12 times 12. I mean, you run out of space to review everything that's being referred to. Do we, do we need to include, and I'm kind of picking up on one of the things Ryan had said, do we want to include in this language or reference somewhere something on cages? I'm not sure that it's covered, and I know I think Ryan had mentioned things that seem to be in here, shade house, greenhouse, whatever. But we do have cages in our community, and I wondered if that was something that needs to be somehow related to, is this something also considered a non-residential farm building?
The reason I didn't go there is because the definition of non-residential says the term may include but is not limited to a barn, a greenhouse, a shade house, a farm office, storage building, or poultry house. So, for example, if in order to be a non-form building, it has to be classified as that under the statute. It has to be
non-residential building.
Non-residential farm. I did that again.
Yeah, that's okay.
Non-residential farm building. It has to be on a farm under that section of the statute, which I'll verify, used for agricultural purposes, integral part to a farm operation, or classified as ag land. And it's not intended. So if you've got a bird cage on ag land, it's going to fall, in my view, to the poultry house because it's includes but not limited to.
Okay.
But it has to. But in order for that to be a non-residential farm building, you have to get through those other steps first. If it's not classified ag or it's not built on a farm, you're not going to get there. But if it gets there, I would say, how can you parse poultry house from the bird cage? Now, I did not prepare it. That would be a second question. If the answer is yes, or example, then is boom, and that would take an additional round of research and whatnot, which wasn't.
Okay, I'm just a thought, a question.
You know, I thought the most important thing is to get an answer on that, and then if we have to go peel that second layer of the onion, we have to deal with that.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so you need, Ron, go ahead.
Just one, I mentioned it to you before, Mike. One major problem we've got right now is not fences as much as it is paddocks or corrals where the horses are confined. And trust me, after a certain period of time, it turns into a pigsty. It stinks, it holds water, they kill the grass, and I don't notice anything in question about paddocks or corrals. I mean, that's where we're having our problems at Loxahatchee right now, with neighbors that have been there for a long period of time, and then an equestrian moves in and they build paddocks up against the fence line to confine the horses, and then we run into problems. So, you know, well, we're not mentioning paddocks at all.
No,
Okay.
not in this.
Okay.
Not in this.
Okay. What do you need something from us as far as this letter?
If you do a motion to authorize me to forward this, subject to verifying that statute, which I'm still trying to do right now, then,
Okay.
then I can feel free to send it hopefully tomorrow.
So we'll make
I'll make a motion that you go ahead and you authorize you to send that.
Second,
Second.
second by Ron. Further discussion by council? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, motion passes.
Mayor, I just wanted to add, I don't know if we've ever indicated this to you, but also, while Mike has been working on this, one of the things, we have a number of code enforcement cases that hinge on agricultural issues. And in talking about some of them, Mike recommended, and I thought it was a good approach, that all these be stayed until we get the answer from the Attorney General. And I just wanted you to be aware that, I mean, we are pursuing them, but we're not going to pursue them to the point of the special magistrate until we get the answer back from the Attorney General. Just wanted you all to be aware of that. That's been our intended posture, unless you have a problem. That's your.
No, sounds good. Sounds good.
And I am finding 10C.
You are, okay, thank you.
I'm on the, I can't tell you the website, but it's the state of Florida website for current statutes. It is a 10C.
Okay. I'll show you my website.
You should leave mine on, you can just come over here and I'll show you.
Okay, moving to comments by town council members. And
But
then get out of here.
I
Oh,
want to
okay.
say happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right, thank you, Mike. All right, town council members.
Everybody, thanks. Wow, then we have everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming. Thanks everybody that you heard. There's news here and certainly have a great Thanksgiving. We do have lots to be thankful for.
Okay, Ryan?
Thanks for coming. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in December.
Okay. Ron?
Quick comment. Mark mentioned something about newsletters monthly, okay? Mark, how much does it cost to send a newsletter out monthly?
Well,
Roughly.
I'm going to address that. You may remember the first couple of newsletters we did, cost us $1. I have to get the price. I don't remember, I don't want to guess the number off the top of my head. And then you guys said, well, maybe what you need to do is look at another way of doing it. One of the things we talked about is maybe going to a newsletter that will be generated from the new website. We just haven't gotten there yet. I'm being very honest and candid with you, but our issue will be to pick those up again, to try to do it in a way that's a lot cheaper for the town, according to government life, at the same time, probably be more of a web-based newsletter, unless you all want to continue with the monthly, and I don't think you do, so, I mean, because of that cost, the printing cost. Yeah.
I would say that we don't need to have a monthly newsletter.
I don't think we ever had a monthly.
No.
We had a quarterly.
Not even with the past two management teams, each one did.
I think the town crier does a great job of getting out the news personally. And I haven't seen one from the LGLA.
I already signed off.
Very good. Jim. There you go.
And I agree with Tom. Town Crier does a good job. They've got the YouTube where they can watch our meetings and stuff. They've got the internet. I personally think that there's one important newsletter minimum. Okay, that would be at the beginning of the year, for the simple fact you can tell the people what we've accomplished during the past year, and you can tell the people what we want to accomplish for the next year. And it covers both years. And that's the only newsletter I feel like's
We have talked about that internally, and one of the things we talked about was, well, maybe we should do two, and try to do them like that strategically during the given year, so that one could be like, maybe a summary of significant events like Councilman Gerald's talking about, or the other could be about the budget. It's just a question of trying to determine the timing. And that might be worth the expenditure, but then again, now we're cognizant of the cost of those first two that we sent out back to back when we started. I think they were great newsletters, but the printing cost blew us away, so.
Great. Okay. I think I'd also like to say that a lot of the criticisms that are directed to the town management generally come from sources that were extremely close to the previous town management, too close in my opinion, so I'm willing to discount much of what's said. That said, thanks everyone for still being here.
Okay, and I've just got two little things. I've got one letter here from an Andre Pratt on D Road. I guess he is on the west side of D Road and feels that he has no place to put his clippings and yard stuff and things like that. He used to put it across the road. I think the property changed now. They no longer invite his stuff on that side.
You know, that one sounds familiar. I believe I actually had Frank investigate that.
You might have.
Yeah.
You know, so we might want to
Hopefully we
talk
got it
to-
resolved, but we'll double check
Okay,
that.
okay, I'll leave it with you. And then the other one was, I got a call, and I know Ron did too, from Reba Harris, and over on A Road, and I guess she was saying that some of the equestrians, and she's a horse person, and she was leaving her gate unlocked, but hopefully that the horse people would close it after they went through. And they haven't, and so I guess they will leave it open, her horses got out, her dogs got out, everything else, so she was kind of upset, and we might need to, it might be something as simple as paying for a field fence along there, and that way that could be left open for the equestrians, I don't know. I know Water Patrol Board did that before, but we could do something to help the horse people get through it at the same time.
You think like how about a public service announcement on like the website?
Well, I don't think that's what it's gonna involve. I think it's just gonna be something that you know, because people know they're just not, they're going through the fence and they're either not putting it back up or they're riding over it or whatever, so.
The only solution is that west side of the canal is our future equestrian trail, from North Road all the way south. You've got, just from 161st north, everybody is cattle or equestrians, and we've got fences up. So to fence off her 5 acres, it wouldn't be costly, but it would open the whole stretch, and it would protect our property, because some people are rude, but no, that would be, we would be paying part of the equestrian cost ahead of time.
And it would help.
Can you show me that on our little tour that we're going to
I'll
take?
be glad to show you.
Okay, that'd be great, that would help.
I'll do that. And on top of that, happy Thanksgiving and thank you all for coming.
Another phone?
And go on a petition like this. But no, we will, if we have to, but what people don't realize, it'll cost us thousands of dollars just to do the referendum, to do the election. And that could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. There comes a time when the taxpayers in Loxahatchee, with the economics like they are right now, we need to draw a line and quit wasting our money.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
In some of the comments, it was stated that the voters aren't having a voice in regards to this. Just to remind everybody, over the past almost 2 years, we've had multiple workshops for the public to talk about it, and the vast majority of the time, there were some issues that were raised, but it was in regards to traffic mostly, but I didn't really hear too many folks saying we're against the school. They were against the traffic, and town felt and the school feels that we can resolve that issue, but up to now, we didn't really hear a big voice against the school itself, and now all of a sudden, there's a petition, and they're saying that they didn't have the opportunity to speak their mind, and we're just doing whatever we want, despite what the residents feel like, and that's the
complete opposite. And I guess, I'm gonna make one comment and then I'll shut up. What hurts me the most is I've been out here 33 years. My phone number has not changed for 33 years. I'm in the book. The only people that called me were some people that lived very close to the college, and I talked to them, and they were all on board before I ever told Dr. Gallant I was behind the project. And nobody has called me with this. You know, we're supposed to be a neighborhood. Come on, neighborhood means neighbors. And that means if you got a problem, you call somebody. Nobody calls me. They just start a petition and go about it. And I hope this is not the way Loxahatchee Groves will become, because then a lot of us will evaluate whether this is really the type of town we want to stay in or not. So anyway, I guess there's a lot of things up here. But anyway, we need to get, we've got a lot of stuff to go. Ron, go ahead.
I just want to put on the record that these people approached the Loxahatchee Landowners Association last Thursday, and they were looking for support from the Landowners Association. They voted on it, and they voted not to support it. The people at the Landowner Association, they support the college, and they do not support this petition.
Along that same line, they approached our friends at Sunsport. And I talked to the leadership there, and they are very much for the college. And I understand the petition that was left there has not received any signatures on it. So anyway, all right, let's move on to committee reports. Financial, is Elise here? Okay, Lumshu is here. Welcome.
Chairman of the committee, and get to report to the county manager. We have a meeting, and everything went very well, and everything became to us was good, and looking forward to another conference.
Thank you, Chair. All right, great report. All right, moving to item 5, and I know this is a public hearing, so at the end it'll be open to comments.
Mr. Mayor, let me
Before we move, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the August, September 2012 financial report.
Okay, we have a motion by Jim, second by Ryan for approval of the August, September financial report. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Moving to 5. Mike.
Mr. Mayor, I'll read the ordinance title. This is second reading of ordinance 2012-08. An ordinance of the town of Loxahatchee Groves, Florida, amending the town of Loxahatchee Groves Unified Land Development Code, ULDC, to create a new Article 41 entitled Plan Unit Development, PUD, providing for purposes of intent, land use and development, intensity regulations, objectives and standards, inclusive of design requirements and performance standards, application requirements, and amendments to approved PUDs, providing for conflicts, severability, codification, and effective date.
Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed ordinance is a plan unit development. If the ordinance is approved, it would add a new Article 41, plan unit development, to the town's Unified Land Development Code. I won't go into a long presentation on this because we have discussed it at length at several meetings. I would say, however, that we have a staff report on pages 61 to 65 of the council agendas package indicating how the proposed ordinance is consistent with the criteria necessary to justify the amendment to the ULDC. As I said, the proposed ordinance is subject of intense public review, and from its initial presentation, we went 9 different revisions based on planning, zoning board, and council workshops. After being heard on the agenda at 3 different planning and zoning board meetings, the board recommended approval at its July 12th, 2012 meeting. And also the PUD was on the council's agenda 3 different times, at which times the council requested and the staff made several additional amendments At the meeting of September 18th, 2012, council voted by 5-0 vote to approve the ordinance. The ordinance in its final form is presented on pages 75 to 91 of the staff report, and staff recommends approval of ordinance 2012-08. All right, any questions?
Okay. Any question by council members? All right, entertain a motion.
Public hearing?
Okay, public hearing. I have no comment cards, but it's open for item 5A. Anybody want to speak to this? And again, realize when you hear PUD, this is not a housing thing. It is just a tool to use to be able to. When I first heard the term, it kind of scared me too. But anyway, all right. Anybody want to speak to it? Open, close. Okay. Entertain a motion. We need a motion. We do need a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve ordinance 2012-08.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And I need to point out for the record, this requires affirmative of 4 votes.
Okay. Ryan, we need you up here, buddy. Sorry. All right, we have a motion and a second for item 5. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Moving to 5B. And this is a quasi-judicial public hearing.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this will, hold on a second, how do we get this?
Okay, so anyone wishing to speak regarding this one will need to stand and be sworn in.
The ordinance, I apologize. At the end of the agenda item. There it is. Yes, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. This will require anyone who intends to speak on this item. It is a public hearing, so anybody who wishes to speak, I need to have them raise your right hand and be sworn in. If anybody's here, otherwise I'll swear to staff. Do you swear affirm that you swear affirm the testimony and statements you make this evening should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to read the ordinance title. Okay. This is ordinance 2012-09, ordinance of the town council, the town of Waxahachie Grove, Florida, providing for the rezoning of land consisting of approximately 1.76 acres more or less, located on Southern Boulevard, approximately 900 feet east of Sea Road, Waxahachie Grove, Florida, legally described and is designated on the map. Attached to Exhibit A of this ordinance from Palm Beach County Zoning Designation County Commercial, CC, the town zoning designation Commercial Low, CL, providing for the appropriate provisions to the zoning district map, providing for servability conflicts and effective date.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the town-initiated rezoning on a 1.76 acre property located on Southern Boulevard, just approximately 900 feet east of Sea Road. The owner of the property is FMM1 Limited Liability Corporation. If you're interested, there's a photo, aerial photograph of the property on page 97.
This is the old Gary's Midway property, correct? No?
The property next to the gas station on the west side.
Okay.
Yeah, we did hear this.
Oh,
Gotcha.
in between it. The current zoning on the property is CG General Commercial under the Palm Beach County Land Development Code, and the proposed zoning is Commercial Low under the Town of Waxahachie Groves Land Development Code. Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval at its meeting on August 9th, 2012. The Town Council approved the rezoning on first reading at its meeting of August 21st, 2012. Staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning ordinance 2012-09.
Okay. All right, public comments? All right, open, close. All right, entertain a motion?
I'll make that. Quick question for CG. I'm just wondering which is that.
It is CC.
One other comment. As we're doing this and, you know, getting everything in order and in line, I think one thing that I think we'd like to keep in mind is these properties remain just pepper jungles with tires everywhere. And we really ought to do something to maybe clean up along Southern Boulevard. Because I don't know what we're, you know, everybody talks about we're preserving this, we're preserving that. I just really see we're preserving pepper health, you know, for homes for it. And so I'd like to see it cleaned up. And this particular property, as well as the others up there, is a place where homes hang out. You can go there every day and find people sitting in the bushes drinking beer. So I think we can hear tonight.
Thank you, okay.
Mayor, what we could do to that point, Councilman Wilson, if council would so direct, I will write the doctor's note to request from council that we go ahead and tenant clean out the property after use.
All right, we have a motion, we need a second.
Second.
Second by Ron. Jim?
Mayor, I had a conversation with the doctor, and he indicated to me that they do have a potential buyer in mind that has a development proposal that will be brought into the town.
Okay. Now, just from a practical standpoint, what is the difference between CC and CO as far as how it affects the landowners of Loch Etch Groves?
Well, we're signing it a town zoning district.
Okay.
The district that it has now is a county zoning district. There are some differences between the two zoning districts. We need to assign the town district because it's in the town and it reflects the town.
Okay.
The county's district is a little bit more liberal.
Okay.
Than the town's.
Than ours, okay.
Yes.
And I would add to that, Mayor, when we brought you the Aaron Morello rezoning several weeks back, one of the things we did when we sat down with him, we actually did a comparison of the county CGA at the time versus our commercial low. And I believe my recollection is there were probably 6 to 8 uses that were incorporated in the county zoning, and of course, many of those, I think, you had to go get board or county commissioner approval. So there really wasn't a significant difference, as I thought there was going to be when we first undertook looking into this. I think CC is a little less than 10. A little less, so there might be 3 or 4 uses difference in terms of what we can do.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Moving to 5C, which was the old 6A.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, this is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 2012-06. 2012-06 put in the current moratorium we have on changes to the comprehensive plan so that you would have time to review the comprehensive plan and consider possible adoptions to it. You know that staff and your town planner have commenced that review. In fact, I think you approved a work order on that 2 meetings ago, but more time is needed to complete that. This is a request to amend the ordinance to extend the moratorium to March 30th, 2013. No other changes to that ordinance are proposed, so it will be the same moratorium you have in place today. We extend it to March 30th with anticipation that by then there will be proposed comp plans for you to consider adoption. I'd like to read the title, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Loch Etch Groves, Florida, amending ordinance 2012-06 to extend the moratorium imposed therein, until March 30th, 2013, provided for conflict severability and effective date. And this is the public hearing.
Okay. Public comments on this? Anybody? No public comments? Open, closed, council members, anything? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2012-10.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments, further comments by council members? One of the things I would like to do, though, myself, before this gets again to March 30th, 2013, we already realize there's some things that we're going to need to address. I hope that, we're going to have some committees in place, like square footage usage, things like that we're going to need to deal with to protect the Okeechobee corridor. So, But anyway, I just don't want to wait until then and all of a sudden try to do it again. You know, we want to be fair.
We would like to wrap up this moratorium at that time. It'll be a year.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, passes 5-0.
We'll come back for a second reading and a second public hearing on December 4th.
Okay, moving to 6A.
Would you like to read the title first?
Sure.
Okay, Mayor, I apologize. An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of West Texas, Florida, providing for the rezoning of land consisting of approximately 1.0028 acres more or less of property located on Southern Boulevard, approximately 350 feet west of D Road, 5.90 acres more or less located at 14579 Southern Boulevard, Oxford Road, Florida, legally described and designated on the map attached as Exhibit A to this ordinance from Palm Beach County zoning designation, general commercial GC to the town's zoning designation, commercial low, providing for the appropriate revisions to the zoning map, providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date.
All right, Jim.
Mayor, this is similar to the previous rezoning. Rezoning on two parcels of land, one slightly over 1 acre and the second slightly under 6 acres for a total of 6.9 acres located on Southern Boulevard. It's the shopping center essentially. The owner is the Ease Corporation. The current zoning is CG General Commercial under Palm Beach County ULDC, and proposed zoning is commercial law under the Lockheed Brothers ULDC. Planning and Zoning Board recommends approval of the application at its meeting on November 8, 2012. Staff report is on page 123 of the agenda. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning of ordinance 2012-11.
All right. Comments by council members? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. All right, moving to 7A. Resolution.
Yeah, I'm going to go over the resolution and then the second part of this request. This was at the meeting, I think it was the last meeting. It's been a while, I think it was the last meeting, I'm sorry, where the council directed the preparation of ordinance to create a committee to review the current land development and make recommendations to town council on those issues. And so I prepared this resolution for your consideration. By all no means the final, if there are concerns with town council, but I did base it on previous committee resolutions that you have done. The resolution does provide for a committee that would have 5 voting members that are appointed as members, much like your other committees, and that their terms would run concurrently, that they would have to be a resident of the town, would be a qualification for that. The duty would be to review and provide recommendations on changes to the town's currently adopted ULDC consistent with direction from the town council. So from time to time, we would request it to provide subject matters or sections or chapters that you would want this committee to take a look at. There is an attendance requirement. If you missed more than 3 consecutive meetings, you could be removed by the town council. It has the same prohibition on doing business with the town as your other committees. And if a regular meeting, a regular member resigns from their position, the nominating council member shall appoint. It does provide that it's advisory only. So again, this is the ULDC, would take these advisements, these recommendations as this committee goes on, and you would then provide direction to the administration of which ones to start the process for adoption. All ULDC changes would have to go back to Planning and Zoning Board to get a more formal recommendation for you, consistent with the Chapter 163 Florida statutes. Upon your adoption of this, they would hold an organizational meeting so they could appoint a chair and vice chair. They would meet as determined by the town manager. They're subject to the sunshine law. There has to be notices, there's quorum. applications. It does provide town staff to provide reasonable, adequate support to the committee, and that the, let's see, town manager shall act as the secretary or designee to the review committee. It shall attend the meetings, and they serve without compensation. So that's it in a nutshell. I did not, it appears that I did not provide for the appointment of alternate members. Maybe that's something that I regret leaving out. That might be something I would recommend perhaps, that as you did with your other boards, maybe you could, as a council, pick 2 people to serve as alternates, but that you don't necessarily need to do that. Leave that to your discretion. If you have attendance problems, people maybe should be removed. But again, I leave it for your review and direction on whether it's sufficient to pass and you're happy with it, or we need to make revisions, possibly bring it back or pass as amended.
Okay. Yes, Mark?
Before you act on the resolution, there's a second part to this, and let me just review that. And one of the things, I think Mike said it, but if he didn't, one of the key clauses in here also is the fact that there's a sunset provision so that they complete, the committee completes their work by December 2013. Now, one of the things is I did provide to you a report as well on pages 140 through 142 for the work authorization, and I want to explain it. Now, we were last meeting when the town council decided that they were going to move from a review by review meeting at the town council level to an actual new committee that would act. Obviously, this increases the workload on staff and adds a whole new time. We look at, you would have to have the town clerk at every meeting, you would have to have myself and one of the other staff supporting them, addressing questions, as well as the preparatory work in terms of explaining to the committee the rationale behind what they're looking at in terms of the review material that night, reacting to any questions they may have, or any research they want. The work authorization to do that is $16,475. But I do want to call your attention, page 142, because we did itemize this very carefully. One of the things that I indicated in attempting to look at this was assuming that they met once a month, and possibly toward the end they might have to meet twice a month to meet the deadline. You could have at a maximum 18 meetings or less. The same thing, so that was roughly a maximum of 150 staff hours that were covered. We also tried to estimate how much staff time would be spent in preparation of agenda and requests by this committee to review or look at any items, and we did a maximum of 70 hours there. Now, obviously, they could be a lot lower than that, and that could be a high number. It also doesn't include any legal expenses. It's very, very possible in the process, Mike would have to be called in and we have to provide legal aid to this committee. But I wanted to explain to you what's behind the numbers, because obviously creating a new committee, and a new committee looking at material that is, somewhat complex from a land development standpoint. Obviously, we don't want to go down this road and do a job that isn't a complete job. I think you want to get the ULDC wrapped up this time, and I think you were looking for is a committee that, in the end, give you a body of work that you can turn around and legislatively take care of. So that's the reason behind the work authorization in conjunction with the resolution. If you're not inclined to do that, then I would say we need to discuss process and how we're going to have this work, because obviously it is it's going to be a very complicated task with a lot of time spent. And obviously, if you commence it, you certainly want to do a good, successful job. So with that, we have to answer any questions.
Okay.
Mark, is this an advisory committee?
Yes.
Totally. Second question, actually, opinion, is I think that anybody on the committee should be a voter. I don't think we should just have people on the committee who happen to live in the town. I would suggest that we change it to registered voter. They're going to be making statements to part of the decision-making process.
On that point, I wanted to raise it, but I'll raise it a little differently. I would request that we have a resident and property owner. There are a few people that don't want to vote, but they have to have property ownership and be a resident, not just a resident, not just a relative, for example.
I think that's sort of contrary to the Constitution. You don't have to have property in order to to be allowed to vote on things. I think we should stick with what the towns electors are, and those are registered voters. I don't think we should have a property requirement for those. I think that's fairly.
No, the only reason I raise it is because we're talking about our land use codes, that the property owners are the ones that are subject to it. I mean, we could make it a resident.
If we do that, I know what you're trying to say, but I think if we do that, we run into the same thing you have with the water management district, you know, because honestly, my land is owned in the name of a company, so I couldn't be on it because I don't own land in my name. So, you know, that's not, you know, we're gonna get into that whole thing. We were there with trusts and this and that and the other thing, so I don't think that's, I feel that I'm a landowner just as much as anybody else, but the fact that it's in a corporate name doesn't, would preclude me from being on this committee, and I don't think that's a proper way to do it.
Okay, let's take one at a time. What are your thoughts on that they be a registered voter?
It's okay to be a registered voter. I mean, I would make it, we'll see.
All right, I just want to take one at a time, and then we'll
Okay,
put
a
other
registered
down.
voter is fine,
All
but
right.
I'm not finished with the definition, I just added registered.
Gotcha, okay. Is everybody all right with them being a registered voter? All right, consensus? All right, that's item one. Jim, what's your part there?
That I was gonna add property owner because this is like, they have skin in the game. Now, I understand what Tom's saying. I don't know how many corporations we have in this town and how many people right now, even though I'd like Tom involved, he can't get involved in this committee yet. So we could maybe look at that in the future to modify it. And I think you wouldn't be sure that the 2013 eligible, as I recall, your tenure. So we would not have your availabilities, but I don't know if Mike can address that in some way. But I do think if somebody is a property owner, not only a property owner, we've been down this road once before, but a resident, that's a property owner that has to have some skin in the game here. And we're talking about advising on land use that is their land versus I'm renting it, kind of thing. So definitely registered voter's fine. My comment was some people don't want to be registered voters. I'm not sure why, but they don't. And I didn't want to. Maybe if they're not interested in politics, maybe they shouldn't be a candidate for this committee. So I go along with registered voter. I would just like to make it also a property owner.
Okay, how do you feel about a resident property owner?
Look, I know where Jim's coming from, but I disagree for the simple fact that each one of us, we pick a committee member, okay? And you know, I'm gonna look at it as, does he own property in Loxahatchee, whether it's residential, commercial? But I'm also gonna look at it as an individual. They could be renting, but I'm gonna look at that person and how I think he's knowledgeable and capable of working on that committee. So I wouldn't require that, because each one of us, we have our standards to go by. And Jim's standard would be that he needed to be an owner, property owner. So I just don't see a requirement that each one of us is picking an individual for different reasons.
All right, so let's get a consensus. Who thinks the person should be a landowner resident?
And the third, or not?
You have right now.
Third, we've already got registered.
Registered owner, so I guess the question is,
Just
and landowner or?
Yeah, that's what we're
We
talking
already
about.
have resident voter in there.
Well, they're the registered voter.
They're registered, they live here.
They live here.
So the residence is
Okay.
established by them. Well, no, it's
Some of our
not,
biggest
because we just said they're registered voters, we didn't say they're registered
Some of
voters.
our
Or like you would put
biggest
elector. Elector of the town is someone who registered to vote within the town and can vote
Okay,
now.
then that takes care of
That's what you would
that
put as
part.
elector.
So the residents. So should they be landowners?
Then I would like to have them also include property owner.
Okay. Ryan?
I like Jim's idea, but the only thing I'm thinking is like, well, we keep adding committees and we're running out of votes. So I don't want to keep people from joining the committee, since we are running out of votes. So that's my only hang up about requiring the property owners. But that would be one of the things I would be looking for when I'm looking to appoint my committee members.
Okay. And really, it's important to have some skin in the game, but if we have a good person in that position, and it's an advisory position, I've got no problem with it. So I would say that we don't go with the requirement for the landowner, correct?
Okay, I would withdraw my request.
Okay, okay, all right.
So right now, you would amend section 2, paragraph Roman numeral 1, large big B, that it shall be an elector of the town.
Yes. All right.
That's
Anything else by council members? Ron?
I've had my person for that committee now for a couple months, and I'm hoping the rest of the council members have somebody in mind. But I know one person contacted me, and I couldn't pick him because I've already got Howard Form as my representative. But I want to put it out to the council because I can do it at a meeting. Beck with the Red Barn would like to be on the committee. And I look at Beck, if I hadn't picked Howard, I probably would have picked Beck because he
We're
covered
not
the
picking
company.
tonight.
No, I know
We're
that.
not.
I'm just saying something. And I'm putting his name out there tonight.
Clarify the record.
But
He's campaigning for
I'm campaigning for Beck. But anyway, Beck is not only a commercial person that pays a lot of taxes in this town, but he's also a landowner. And he's an equestrian. He covers 2 and 3 aspects. So, just for the rest of the council, I think it would be a good subject to think about.
Okay. All right, what do we need to do tonight? Do we need to make a decision on the money part?
Yeah, it has 2 parts. You would pass the resolution, and you would make a decision on the work authorization.
Okay,
And December 4th, we bring it back to you to select your committee members if you
all right,
pass none.
all right, so I'll entertain a motion.
Do we have public comment on that?
Yeah, we'll make the motion first, second, and then we'll have public comments.
Did I read? I don't think I read the title. Let me read the title.
I did.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay, I probably did. One of those days.
That's how we usually start it, so. Okay,
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2012-19 with the one change, as I understand it, we have made with the elector.
and we're gonna handle the financial part separately?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second by Ronnie. Further comments by council members? Okay, by the public, I got Virginia Standish.
Howard's gonna go first.
Howard's gonna go first?
Yeah, he's not.
Okay. But if she's agreeable, Virginia's my choice. So, anyway, Howard, come on up.
It's not what I came up for, but just a quick thing, Jim. There's a lot of spouses out here that don't have their names on the property. And I believe there's already something where either you or your spouse have to be a landowner. So I just wanted to point that out for consideration.
I don't know how the spouses allowed that to happen, because it wouldn't happen.
Well, it gets undone in divorce court.
Yours or mine either.
At any rate, in hearing this, it seems to me, a meeting every month for 12 months, I don't see how in the world a committee is going to be able to handle this in 12 meetings. You guys know the number of man hours that were put in to the development of this whole thing, and to expect a committee of 5 people to undo the tangled web that was woven in all that time in 12 meetings seems a little bit strange to me. What I would suggest, and I spoke with Virginia about this, and town council did this once before, okay? I would suggest, and of course it was the same legal firm, a different attorney that approved it, okay? To get around the sunshine law, which is expensive, okay? That's where all this money is going from. To appoint a committee of 1 does not require sunshine. The other people will not be appointed committee members, but advisors. Now, we can get together and do all the grunt work that's going to take hours and hours and hours. When this group of people, the committee of 1 and the advisors, have together what they think is the majority of work that they want to tackle, and the decisions have been made by the group as to where they're in agreement, then we can call for a formal structured committee that would be in the sunshine, that might only have to meet 3 times and it'd be over and done with. That seems like an awful lot of money spent for an awful little amount of meeting. And so looking for a way to get around that, I would suggest considering the committee of one. We did this with the environment with Bill Gurney many years ago in order not to have the expense of the secretaries and the town managers and everything else being at every meeting, taking minutes and whatnot. I think a lot of this stuff can be hammered out with a bunch of advisors and committee member of one at a table to do the majority of work. And depends how this attorney feels about that.
And what are we talking about? One person would basically be the appointed one to chair. Then they would just call together whoever they wanted to call together to put this.
And of course, the town council members can make recommendations as to who should be their advisors.
As soon as we make recommendations, now it almost sounds like we're appointing. I don't know, Mike, I'm going to you.
I don't know about a committee of one. I don't know that.
Tulsa disapproved that idea.
That's fine. I don't know about a committee of one. I don't know the circumstances. I don't know anything about that, and I'm not willing to give you an opinion that we should give one person a task of changing the ULDCs, which is basically what you have to do with a committee of one.
So see, the one person wouldn't have the task of changing it. One person would have the task of getting together a group of advisors and coming and formulating a document so we could get together as a formal committee and then, according to the rules of the sunshine, recommend the changes and or adopt them.
Exactly.
Ron, it is right.
My question is to find out if we can do it. In other words, personally, if we can do it, and since one of your associates allowed it to happen in the past, no, my concern, because the truth of the matter is, it does save a lot of money. And when I listen to a committee of one, here's the way I would expect that one person to be picked. First of all, I would expect the group of 5 to pick their chairman or speaker, whatever, okay, the guy that can represent them the best. And even that committee of one, he is still just an advisory to this council. So there'd be 2 processes. First of all, we pick the 5, and at the same time we pick the 5, they would pick the one that they want to represent the group. Now, I'm just saying, find out if this is possible. If it's not possible, say so now.
Well, but if you're going to make me tell you now, I'm not going to rehash this or anything else. I'm going to recommend against it.
Okay, no, I don't mind you recommending against it. I just want to know if it's possible.
Okay. If I can, let me just weigh in on that, because, having done this for a lot of years before getting into town management, I would tell you that's an awesome task for somebody who does it as a profession. And to put that on the head of one person, no matter how much they're willing to take on a task like that, that's an awesome job. Secondly, I would say, I think that's being penny-wise and kind of foolish, because what you're doing is, this is an ordinance that regulates development. It's a very important ordinance, and you need to be real careful with varying from the normal requirements that you follow in order to do a job like this. So that would just be my caution, aside from the legal advice of mine.
Okay. Ryan and then Tom.
Towards the last 6 months of our adoption of the ULDC, we at one point we started forwarding emails as in regards to ideas we had to the ULDC, and then that was dispersed. That way it was through sunshine, but we were still able to work on the ULDCs with input from the other members. That can help speed along the process, because if they can discuss or at least get an idea of the bulk of the stuff that needs to be brought up, then at the physical meeting they could finish it up. But the majority of the grunt work, as Howard said, would be done outside of the meeting. It would be all updates would go through the town and then get dispersed to the rest of the community members. That's what we were doing.
What you all did is you had one-way communication.
Right.
You brought it, if you had thoughts on it, you got it to Frank, guess, I don't remember. But
Right.
that was all given to each of you before you got here, so it was like writing a memo, but not having a dialogue or a communication.
Right.
Right, so
That type of preparation is what Mark was saying, is staff would need to prepare them and coordinate that before every meeting, whether.
Well, the reason why I brought that up is because I figured that the physical meetings would be more productive because the ideas will be out, and then the committee members would have time to think about it, and then at the meeting, they'll be able to discuss it better. A lot of times if you just bring up ideas, sometimes you need a few days to think about it, and just sitting there in the meeting, a lot of times, honestly, not too much gets accomplished because there isn't enough time to think about these things.
Essentially, how the process would probably work is something similar to this. What we would do is we would prepare an agenda, we would divide it up into, and I said it probably would be more than 12, but we would try to keep it capped at 18 meetings. We would go ahead and based upon the sections that committee would be reviewing that night, we would put together an agenda packet for them with relevant information, either the history or what we understand to be the reasons behind why the legislation is written a certain way, problems we may see. I would fully expect that I'm going to receive interaction from you as far as things you might like, and of course, we're not going to say, Councilman, said this, or Councilman, or, Vice Mayor said that, because that would be against the Sunshine Law, but we would incorporate that into our information, and we would present it and work with the committee. The committee would give the feedback. If there was anything that the committee wanted the staff to take a look at, any questions in addition to what they, and we would keep going that way until we got through the entire document, so that we had a set of, and then we'd have our last couple of meetings would be to a final recap, to go through the summary. I mean, that is how I see the process working in a smooth fashion, in which we would also be able to address everybody else's issues and get to that point. So, I mean, that's just a rough idea as to how I envision it working. If